The moon rose red over Silvercrest, and Claire felt the whole pack hold its breath. No one alive had seen a blood moon here. Not their parents, not their grandparents, not even the elders who carried 3 generations of stories in their bones. The last one had come almost 300 years ago, back when the oldest names carved into the moon circle had still belonged to living wolves. The elders called it holy. The priests called it the goddess's favor. Every unmated wolf in the pack had spent the day whispering about destiny, about soul-deep bonds and mates revealed before dawn. Claire only wished the clouds would swallow the sky. Wind slid down from the mountains and moved through the pines, cold enough to sting her cheeks. Hundreds of Silvercrest wolves had gathered inside the ancient circle, crowding between the stone pillars that ringed the sacred ground. Each pillar carried names of past alphas and lunas, cut deep into weathered rock. Torches burned between them, throwing orange light across eager faces and nervous hands. Everyone sounded excited. Everyone except Claire. She stood near the back, half hidden behind taller bodies, and tried to keep her fingers from trembling. Her ceremonial dress was plain white, with no silver embroidery, no pearl buttons, none of the pretty details worn by the daughters of ranked families. She had borrowed it from an older Omega after spending weeks telling herself she would stay away. Omegas did not come to ceremonies like this expecting miracles. Claire had learned that early. Stop trying to disappear. Nora's voice slipped in beside her, bright and familiar. Claire glanced over as her best friend squeezed into the narrow space next to her. Nora wore a small smile, the kind she used when she wanted Claire to be brave. If you keep looking at your shoes, Nora said, you'll miss the whole thing. That was the plan. You came all the way here. I can still regret it. Nora took her hand and gave it a firm squeeze. The moon goddess knows what she's doing. Claire wanted that to comfort her. Before she could answer, the ceremonial horn sounded across the valley. The clearing went still at once. Every head bowed as Elder Rowan entered the moon circle. His silver robes moved around him in the wind, and the moonstone staff in his hand caught the red light overhead. He stopped at the altar and lifted his face to the sky. The blood moon has risen. His voice carried over the stones and through the crowd. Tonight, the goddess reveals what was written before birth. Tonight, true mates shall be known. Honor what she gives, for no bond is more sacred. The pack bowed as one. Claire's pulse began to race. She was not afraid of being chosen. She was afraid of being forgotten. Then Ryan stepped into the center of the circle. The future alpha of Silvercrest did not need anyone to announce him. He drew attention by existing. Tall, broad-shouldered, steady in the way only born leaders were steady, he moved toward the altar as if the place had been built for him. Warriors respected him. Elders praised him. Half the young women in Silvercrest had dreamed of standing beside him as Luna. Claire could not blame them. Moonlight glinted off the ceremonial markings painted along his arms. Red light washed over his face, sharpening the hard line of his jaw and turning his silver eyes almost bright. Elder Rowan dipped his head. Raise your eyes. Ryan lifted his gaze. It found Claire's. The world fell silent. Pain and warmth struck her at the same time, hard enough that she almost stumbled. Something opened inside her chest. Something bright. Something alive. Her wolf, quiet for so long that Claire had nearly stopped hoping to feel her at all, surged awake with a joy so fierce it brought tears to her eyes. Mate. The word rang through her like a bell. Ryan was her mate. The goddess had chosen him. For one breath, he stared at her as though the ground had vanished beneath him. Shock crossed his face, naked and unmistakable. Then it changed. His eyes hardened. The wonder disappeared first. Then the shock. Disgust took its place. A murmur moved through the pack. No. An Omega? That has to be wrong. Ryan walked toward her. Each step crushed a little more of the hope rising in her chest. Claire stood frozen while he stopped a few feet away, close enough for her to see the anger in his eyes, close enough to hear the slow drag of his breathing. She searched his face for one sign that he felt what she felt. There was nothing. You, he said. One word. No awe. No joy. Only contempt. Claire swallowed. You were supposed to be my mate? She could only nod. A short, cruel laugh left him. The moon goddess expects me to put an Omega beside me as Luna? The crowd shifted. Some wolves looked away. Others watched too closely, eager for the shame of it. Ryan turned from her and faced the pack. I refuse. Elder Rowan went pale. Future Alpha Ryan. I refuse the bond. His voice rang across the sacred stones. I reject Claire as my fated mate. The pain hit before she understood he had finished speaking. It tore through her so violently her knees gave out. Stone slammed against her skin. A cry broke from her mouth, thin and broken, and she hated herself for letting the pack hear it. Inside her, her wolf screamed. Then the bond vanished. No fading. No gentle loosening. One moment there had been light and warmth and a golden thread pulling her toward him. The next, there was nothing but a hollow ache so deep she could barely breathe. Claire pressed one hand to her chest while tears spilled down her face. No one moved to help her. No one even stepped closer. Ryan looked down at her as if she had embarrassed him by falling. I deserve a Luna worthy of Silvercrest, he said. His words struck in front of everyone. A proper bloodline. He glanced across the ranked families. A respected name. His gaze returned to her, cold and merciless. A woman the pack can follow. Not a weak Omega with nothing to offer. Someone laughed. Then someone else did. The sound spread in small, ugly pieces until Claire had to close her eyes. Every whisper cut. Every stare pressed her lower. The sacred circle, the red moon, the promise of destiny, all of it had become another place where everyone could remember how little she was worth. Elder Rowan's hand tightened around his staff. You cannot reject a mate beneath the blood moon, he warned. The goddess herself has spoken. Ryan did not bow his head. He did not look afraid. My choice is made. The law is older than your title. If the goddess wanted me to accept the bond, Ryan said, voice colder than the mountain wind, she should have chosen someone fit to stand beside me. The wind struck the moon circle. It came hard and sudden, roaring between the pillars. Every torch went out at once. Darkness swallowed the pack. Above them, the red moon burned brighter. Then a roar rolled over the mountains. It was not a wolf. It was not anything Silvercrest knew how to name. The sound carried power so old that fear passed through the crowd like a blade. Warriors reached for weapons. Elders staggered back. Even Ryan turned toward the distant peaks, his face draining of certainty for the first time that night. Far beyond Silvercrest territory, past the forests, past the borders of wolf kingdoms, a fortress of black stone rose over rivers of molten fire. Deep within it, in a throne hall carved from obsidian and ancient bone, a lone figure sat unmoving. Golden eyes opened. For centuries, little in the world had been worth his attention. Tonight, something had stirred. A pulse. A bloodline. A living presence he had searched for through age after age, long after hope should have burned away. The Dragon Lord stood. Flames coiled around his boots and licked across the stone without leaving a mark. His commanders watched in silence as he walked to the open balcony and looked out over the volcanic wastes below. A faint smile touched his mouth. So, he said, his voice low as distant thunder. She lives. Under the blood-red moon, the world of wolves began to shift toward fire. Morning arrived without mercy. Sunlight spilled through the narrow window of the infirmary, warming the wooden floor while doing nothing to ease the ache spreading through Claire's body. Every breath scraped against the raw wound left by the severed mate bond. Her wolf remained silent, tucked somewhere deep inside her mind, too broken to answer. She stared at the ceiling. She slept. Each time her eyes closed, Ryan's voice returned. I reject Claire as my fated mate. The words echoed until her chest tightened all over again. Just then, a quiet knock sounded at the door before it creaked open. Nora stepped inside carrying a bowl of herbal broth. Dark circles framed her eyes, proof she hadn't rested either. You should eat. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since yesterday. Claire slowly pushed herself upright, wincing as another wave of pain rolled through her ribs. I'll be fine. Nora placed the bowl on the bedside table and folded her arms. You've said that 3 times already. Maybe the 4th time will make it true. A faint smile tugged at Nora's lips before fading almost instantly. Silence settled between them. Neither knew what to say. Nothing could erase what had happened beneath the blood moon. Nora finally broke the silence. The entire pack is talking about it. Claire looked away. I guessed. Some are angry. At me? No. Claire raised an eyebrow. Nora sighed. They're angry because the ceremony ended the way it did. Elder Rowan has locked himself inside the moon temple since dawn. The priests believe rejecting a mate beneath a blood moon will bring consequences. Claire let out a bitter laugh. I think those consequences have already arrived. They're not talking about you. Everyone is always talking about me. Her voice remained calm, but the sadness beneath it was impossible to hide. Nora reached across the bed and squeezed her hand. You didn't deserve any of this. No. Claire swallowed hard. But I still have to live through it. A horn echoed outside. Then another. Voices filled the courtyard. Nora frowned. That sounds like a council gathering. Before either of them could move, hurried footsteps approached. The infirmary door swung open without warning. Beta Ronan entered. His broad shoulders nearly filled the doorway. Unlike Ryan, whose confidence often bordered on arrogance, Ronan carried himself with quiet discipline. He rarely visited the Omega quarters, making his appearance alone enough to tighten Clara's stomach. His expression revealed nothing. Elder Rowan requests your presence. Claire blinked. Mine? Immediately. Nora stepped forward. She is barely able to stand. The order came from the council. Ronan's tone softened ever so slightly. I suggest you don't keep them waiting. The journey to the council hall felt far longer than usual. Pack members lined the pathways, pretending not to stare. Children whispered. Warriors paused in their training. Even servants stopped working long enough to watch her pass. Pity lingered in some faces. Mockery lingered in others. Claire kept walking. Her shoulders remained straight despite the weight pressing against them. She refused to let anyone see her crumble again. The council chamber stood at the heart of Silvercrest. Its towering stone walls displayed carved wolves beneath a full moon, symbols of loyalty, strength, and unity. Words that felt painfully hollow today. The heavy doors opened. Every conversation stopped. 12 council elders sat in a semicircle. Ryan stood near the center of the chamber beside his father, Alpha Garrick. His eyes met hers for barely a second before drifting away as though she were beneath his notice. That hurt more than the rejection itself. Elder Rowan rose slowly. Claire. She bowed respectfully. You asked to see me. We did. The old priest leaned heavily upon his carved staff. What happened last night has never occurred during my lifetime. I know. The blood moon is sacred. I know. The moon goddess rarely speaks through signs. I know. His tired eyes searched hers. Then you understand why the council is concerned. Claire nodded. I understand. Alpha Garrick folded his arms. Your presence has divided the pack. She frowned. My presence? The rejection has caused unrest. I didn't reject anyone. No. His voice remained firm. But you are the center of the problem. Those words landed like another blow. Ryan finally spoke. The solution is simple. Every head turned toward him. Send her away. Nora gasped from where she stood near the entrance. Claire looked directly at him. You want me exiled? You can no longer remain here. His expression never changed. Your existence reminds the pack of weakness. A cold silence swept through the chamber. Weakness. The word stung more deeply than she expected. She had spent years serving Silvercrest. Preparing meals. Gathering herbs. Helping heal injured pups. Working long before sunrise while others slept. None of it mattered. Not anymore. Elder Rowan frowned. Ryan. I speak only for the good of the pack. You speak from pride. I speak as the future Alpha. The room fell silent once again. Alpha Garrick closed his eyes briefly before releasing a slow breath. The council has reached a decision. Claire's heartbeat quickened. You are hereby stripped of all duties within Silvercrest Pack. Nora's eyes widened. No. You will surrender your living quarters before sunset. Claire stood perfectly still. Every word chipped away at the life she had known. Elder Rowan looked troubled. Alpha. Garrick continued. You are forbidden from participating in future moon ceremonies. The chamber seemed to tilt beneath her feet. She no longer belonged. Not even as an Omega. Ronan's jaw tightened, though he remained silent. The council, Garrick said quietly, has decided that you will leave Silvercrest territory by tomorrow morning. There it was. Exile. Not because she had committed a crime. Not because she had betrayed her pack. Simply because she had been chosen by fate. Then rejected. Claire drew a slow breath. Her heart screamed for justice. Her pride demanded she argue. Instead, she lifted her chin. If that is the council's decision. She paused, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. Then I will leave. No tears came. Not this time. She had already cried enough for people who believed she was worthless. Turning away, she walked toward the doors. Nobody stopped her. Nobody called her name. Nobody defended her. The massive doors closed behind her with a heavy thud. Only then did she allow herself to stop walking. The courtyard stretched before her, bustling with wolves going about their day as though nothing had changed. Everything had changed. She looked once toward the distant mountains rising beyond Silvercrest's borders. Dark peaks stood against the horizon, their summits hidden beneath drifting clouds. The ashlands lay beyond them. A place every pup had been warned never to enter. Legends claimed monsters lived there. Ancient creatures. Forgotten kings. Stories told to frighten reckless wolves. Claire had never believed them. Now. She had nowhere else to go. The news spread faster than wildfire. By midday, every corner of Silvercrest Pack knew the rejected Omega had been exiled. Claire barely noticed the stairs following her as she crossed the village. Her thoughts remained fixed on the council's verdict. 24 hours. That was all she had left in the only home she had ever known. A few warriors laughed as she passed. Others whispered behind raised hands. No one spoke loudly enough for the elders to hear, yet every word found its way to her ears. I heard she begged the future Alpha. Why would the moon goddess pair him with an Omega? She should be rejected the bond first. At least she'd have some dignity. Claire kept walking. Explaining herself would change nothing. The truth belonged to the moon goddess alone, and even she had remained silent. She reached the modest cottage she had shared with 3 other Omegas. The wooden door creaked open, revealing shelves lined with dried herbs, woven baskets, and blankets folded with care. It had never been luxurious, but it had been home. One of her roommates looked up from packing. Mina. The youngest Omega lowered her eyes almost immediately. I'm sorry. Claire offered a faint smile. You don't have to apologize. They said we aren't allowed to help you. I know. They'll punish anyone who does. Claire nodded. Then don't. Mina bit her lip. It isn't fair. No, Claire admitted softly. It isn't. The room fell quiet again. Claire walked to the small chest beneath her bed and lifted the lid. There wasn't much to take. A few dresses. A warm cloak stitched by her late mother. A necklace carved from moonstone, the only gift her father had ever given her before he died protecting the pack. She traced the smooth pendant with her thumb. So this is how it ends, she whispered. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Nora entered without waiting for permission, carrying a leather satchel over one shoulder. I brought food. You'll get into trouble. I'm already in trouble. She dropped the satchel onto the bed. And I don't care. Claire couldn't stop the smile that touched her lips. You always were stubborn. I learned from you. Nora unpacked fresh bread, dried meat, medicinal herbs, and a small water skin. You'll need these. I can't take them. You can. I want tea. Nora planted her hands on her hips. You once stayed awake for 3 nights caring for me when I had fever. You stitched Beta Ronan's shoulder after the rogue attack. You helped half this pack without asking for anything in return. Her voice cracked. So let someone help you for once. Emotion tightened Claire's throat. She reached forward and hugged her friend. Thank you. Nora held her tightly. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too. The embrace lingered until hurried footsteps sounded outside. Both women turned toward the window. A patrol of warriors marched through the village. Ryan walked at their head. The villagers immediately bowed. Claire instinctively stepped back from the window. Too late. His gaze lifted. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. His expression remained unreadable. Then he looked away and continued walking. Nora scoffed. He can't even look at you. He already has. No, Nora shook her head. He looked through you. Those words hurt because they were true. Late afternoon settled over Silvercrest as Claire carried her belongings toward the edge of the village. She wanted one last walk through the forest before sunrise forced her to leave forever. The familiar trails welcomed her with birdsong and the scent of pine. Every tree held a memory. She had climbed these branches as a child. Gathered herbs beneath these cliffs. Laughed with Nora beside the creek every summer. Soon, none of it would belong to her. A sudden growl shattered the silence. Claire froze. The sound came again. Closer. Low bushes rustled several yards ahead. A massive gray wolf burst into the clearing. Its ribs showed through matted fur, and fresh scars covered its muzzle. Rogue. The beast lunged. Claire stumbled backward, barely avoiding its snapping jaws. She reached for the small dagger hidden beneath her cloak. Too slow. The wolf attacked again. A blur of black fur crashed into the rogue from the side. The impact sent both wolves tumbling across the forest floor. Snarls echoed between the trees. Claire scrambled away as the two wolves fought viciously. Moments later, the rogue broke free and disappeared deeper into the woods. Silence returned. The black wolf shifted. Bones cracked. Fur receded. Beta Ronan stood before her, breathing heavily. Blood trickled from a cut above his brow. Are you hurt? He asked. Claire blinked. I should be asking you that. It's nothing. She stepped closer despite herself. Hold still. Without waiting for permission, she retrieved a strip of clean cloth from her satchel and pressed it gently against the wound. Ronan didn't move. You still help people, he observed quietly. It's difficult to stop. Even after everything? She tied the bandage securely. I don't want bitterness to become the only thing I carry. His eyes lingered on her for a long moment. You don't deserve what's happening. Claire looked toward the fading sunlight filtering through the trees. Deserving has very little to do with fate. Ronan hesitated before speaking again. I argued against your exile. She stared at him. You did? The council had already made up its mind. Thank you. It's not enough. No, she agreed. But it means more than you know. The distant howl of a patrol echoed through the forest. Ronan glanced toward the sound. You should return before dark. So should you. He nodded once before turning away. After a few steps, he stopped. There are stories about the Ashlands. I've heard them. Most aren't stories. A chill crawled down Claire's spine. What do you mean? Ronan faced her again. My grandfather fought in the last war beyond those mountains. His expression grew unusually grave. He always said the greatest danger wasn't what lived there. What was it? What had been waiting? Before she could ask another question, he shifted back into his wolf form and disappeared among the trees. Claire remained where she was. The breeze stirred the branches overhead. Beyond the distant mountains, hidden beneath smoke and ancient stone, something stirred for the second night in a row. Something that had waited centuries for the rejected Omega walking toward her fate. Though she could not see it, destiny had already begun walking toward her as well. Dawn broke over Silvercrest with cruel indifference. Golden light spilled across the rooftops while a cool breeze carried the scent of pine through the village. Wolves emerged from their homes, merchants arranged their stalls, and young pups raced through the streets with carefree laughter. Life went on. Only Claire's world had ended. She stood outside the small cottage that had sheltered her since childhood. A worn leather satchel rested over her shoulder, containing everything she owned. There was no furniture to claim, no treasures to leave behind, only memories she wished she could pack alongside her belongings. The front door creaked open. Mina stepped outside, her eyes already glistening. You don't have to leave yet, she whispered. I do. They won't notice if you stay another hour. They'll notice. Mina looked toward the village square before slipping a small cloth bundle into Claire's hands. I baked these before sunrise. Claire unfolded the cloth to find 4 honey cakes, still warm. You shouldn't have. I wanted to. Emotion tightened Claire's throat. Thank you. Mina threw her arms around her. I'm going to miss you. Claire hugged her back. I'll miss you too. The sound of approaching footsteps ended the moment. 2 warriors stopped a few paces away. Neither met Claire's eyes. The council ordered us to escort you to the border. One of them spoke stiffly, as though reading from memory rather than conviction. Claire nodded. I'm ready. She followed them through the village in silence. Every step felt heavier than the last. People watched from doorways and windows. Some whispered. Some simply stared. Others looked away the moment she noticed them. An elderly baker quietly placed a fresh loaf of bread on the edge of his stall as she passed. He never spoke. Neither did she. She understood. Helping her openly would bring punishment. His silent kindness was enough. The village gates came into view. A familiar figure stood waiting. Nora. She ignored the warriors entirely and hurried toward Claire. You thought I'd let you leave without saying goodbye? Claire smiled for what felt like the first time in days. I hoped you wouldn't. Nora reached beneath her cloak and handed over another bundle. Inside rested a water skin, dried herbs, a flint stone, and a beautifully crafted hunting knife. My father made it. Claire stared at her. I can't accept this. You have to. Nora. If you refuse, I'll follow you into the ashlands. Claire laughed softly despite herself. You wouldn't survive a day. I know. Then don't make promises you can't keep. I'll make them anyway. They embraced tightly. Neither wanted to let go. I'll find you, Nora whispered. No. I will. You have your family. And you're my family too. Claire closed her eyes. I'll come back one day. Nora pulled away just enough to search her face. You believe that? I have to. The warriors shifted impatiently. It is time. Claire nodded. She took one final look at Silvercrest. The only home she had ever known. I forgive you, she murmured. One warrior frowned. What did you say? Nothing. The gates opened. Beyond them stretched a narrow forest path leading toward the distant mountains. Toward exile. Toward the ashlands. The journey lasted until afternoon. Neither warrior attempted conversation. Birdsong gradually faded the farther they traveled. The trees grew taller. The air became strangely still. Even the sunlight seemed dimmer beneath the dense canopy. One of the warriors finally stopped walking. We go no farther. Claire looked ahead. A weathered stone marker stood beside the trail. Its surface was cracked with age, bearing faded carvings of wolves surrounding a mountain. Someone had scratched a warning beneath the ancient symbols. Beyond this point, Silvercrest offers no protection. The second warrior untied a small pouch from his belt and handed it to her. Your final ration. She accepted it with quiet gratitude. Thank you. The men exchanged uncertain glances. One cleared his throat. For what it's worth. He hesitated. I don't think you deserve this. His companion quickly looked away. Neither waited for a response. They turned around and disappeared back down the trail. Claire stood alone. Silence settled around her. A silence unlike anything she had ever known. No voices. No distant laughter. No familiar scents drifting from the village. Only endless forest. She stepped beyond the stone marker. Nothing happened. Another step. Still nothing. So much for cursed lands, she whispered. A sharp gust of wind swept through the trees. Leaves spiraled into the air. The forest suddenly grew unnaturally quiet. Every bird stopped singing. Every insect fell silent. The hairs on the back of Claire's neck stood upright. Someone was watching. She slowly turned in every direction. Nothing. Only towering trees. You've spent too much time listening to stories, she muttered. The uneasy feeling lingered. She pressed forward. Hours passed. The forest slowly changed. Healthy green pines gave way to twisted black trunks. The ground beneath her boots turned gray. Fine ash coated the earth like fresh snow. Strange flowers with crimson petals bloomed between cracked stones. None resembled the plants she de-studied as a healer. The air carried a faint scent of smoke. Yet there was no fire. The mountains loomed closer with every step. Dark. Silent. Ancient. By sunset, exhaustion forced her to stop. She found a small rocky overhang that offered shelter from the evening wind. After gathering fallen branches, she struck the flint Nora had given her. The third spark caught. A modest fire crackled to life. Its warmth eased the chill settling into her bones. She unwrapped one of Mina's honey cakes and smiled sadly. My last taste of home. The words disappeared into the empty wilderness. Darkness settled quickly. Far more quickly than it ever had in Silvercrest. The flames danced before her. Sleep tugged at her heavy eyelids. A deep rumble echoed through the mountains. Claire opened her eyes. Thunder? No clouds covered the sky. The sound came again. Longer this time. It vibrated through the ground beneath her. She climbed to the edge of the rocky shelter and looked toward the distant peaks. Then she saw it. Far beyond the mountains. A massive shape moved across the night sky. Too large to be an eagle. Too graceful to be a storm cloud. Wings. Enormous wings. The silhouette vanished behind the cliffs almost as quickly as it appeared. Claire stared into the darkness. No. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Dragons aren't real. The night answered with another earth-shaking roar. This time, it sounded much closer. Hidden high above the clouds, a pair of ancient golden eyes watched the lone campfire burning in the ashlands. The Dragon Lord had finally found the woman destiny had hidden from him. He would not approach. Not yet. The frightened Omega needed time to take her first steps into a world she had never imagined. Soon enough. Their paths would cross. The roar lingered in Claire's ears long after dawn chased the darkness away. She sat upright beneath the rocky overhang, staring at the pale sky where the enormous shadow had disappeared the night before. Logic insisted she had imagined it. Exhaustion could play cruel tricks on the mind. Still, the memory refused to fade. Those wings had been real. She reached for the dying embers of her campfire and sighed. The last of Mina's honey cakes had become breakfast, leaving only dried meat and a small water skin in her satchel. You'll have to last, she murmured. No answer came. Not from another soul. Not from the wolf that had once shared her heart. The silence inside her mind hurt more than the emptiness around her. She packed her belongings and continued deeper into the ashlands. Morning sunlight struggled to pierce the thick veil of smoke hanging over the forest. Twisted trees stretched toward the sky like skeletal hands, their bark blackened but strangely alive. Crimson flowers blanketed the forest floor, releasing a sweet fragrance she didn't recognize. She knelt beside one of them. Beautiful. Dangerous. Every instinct told her not to touch it. She smiled faintly. Mother would have scolded me for even thinking about it. Her mother had taught her that the prettiest plants often carried the deadliest poison. Claire stood and walked on. Hours slipped by without seeing another living creature. Not a deer. Not a rabbit. Not even a bird. Only ash drifting lazily through the air like gray snow. The path narrowed between towering cliffs until a sudden cry shattered the silence. A wolf's cry. Pain. Fear. Without thinking, Claire broke into a run. Branches clawed at her cloak as she followed the desperate sound. The terrain grew rough beneath her boots, forcing her to climb over jagged rocks before reaching a small clearing. A young wolf lay trapped beneath the fallen trunk of a massive tree. Its silver fur was streaked with blood. One hind leg bent at an unnatural angle. The frightened animal snarled weakly when it saw her. I know, Claire said softly, raising both hands. You're scared. The wolf tried to pull free. The tree didn't move. Claire looked around. No hunters. No pack. No scent of humans. Only the injured animal. She stepped closer. It's all right. Another warning growl. She ignored it. Slowly, she pressed both hands against the heavy trunk. It barely shifted. Her muscles strained. Nothing. She closed her eyes. There has to be another way. Her gaze fell upon a thick branch lying nearby. A lever. She wedged the branch beneath the trunk and pushed with everything she had. The wood creaked. The trunk lifted just enough. Go. The wolf dragged itself free before collapsing a few feet away. Claire released the branch and rushed over. The injury looked serious. Blood seeped steadily from deep cuts along its side. She quickly searched the surrounding plants. Yarrow. Wild sage. Good. She crushed the herbs between smooth stones before pressing them carefully against the wounds. The wolf whimpered but didn't he bite. You're stronger than you think, Claire whispered. After binding the leg with strips torn from her cloak, she sat back. There. The wolf studied her for several long moments. Then, to her surprise, it lowered its head. Not in fear. In gratitude. You'll heal. The animal rose shakily. Its injured leg trembled beneath its weight. Before disappearing into the trees, it looked back one final time. Then it was gone. Claire smiled. So I'm talking to wolves now. The small victory lifted her spirits. She continued walking until the scent of smoke grew stronger. Not ordinary smoke. Something hotter. Sharper. The ground beneath her feet warmed noticeably. Ash swirled around her boots. A strange orange glow flickered between the cliffs ahead. Curiosity pulled her forward. She rounded a massive boulder. And stopped. A river of fire flowed through the valley. Not lava. Actual flames. Brilliant ribbons of crimson and gold twisted across black stone, moving like water while producing no smoke. The sight stole her breath. I've never. She stepped closer. Heat rolled toward her in powerful waves. Common sense urged her to stay back. Instead, she crouched near the fiery current. One of the flames suddenly stretched toward her. She gasped. It coiled around her hand. Instinctively, she squeezed her eyes shut. Pain never came. Confused, Claire slowly looked down. The fire danced across her skin. Warm. Gentle. Almost. Welcoming. She snatched her hand away. The flame drifted back into the glowing river. No. She stared at her unmarked fingers. There wasn't even a blister. Heart pounding, she reached toward the flames again. This time they swirled eagerly around her wrist before retreating once more. Impossible. Every story she'd ever heard claimed dragon fire reduced stone to ash. Yet ordinary flames refused to burn her. A sudden crack echoed behind her. She spun around. Nothing. The cliff stood silent. Still. The familiar sensation returned. Someone was watching. High above the valley, hidden among the dark peaks, a lone figure stood upon a narrow ledge. Black armor reflected the fiery river below. A long crimson cloak stirred in the wind. Golden eyes never left the woman kneeling beside the flames. She should have burned. Any ordinary wolf would have. Instead, the ancient fire had embraced her. One of the Dragon Lord's commanders stepped beside him. My lord. The Dragon Lord remained silent. The flame river acknowledged her. Still no response. The commander lowered his voice. Could the prophecy truly be? It is too soon. The Dragon Lord's gaze remained fixed on Claire. She remembers nothing. What are your orders? A long silence followed. Continue watching. You will not reveal yourself? Not until she reaches the citadel. The commander frowned. She may never survive the Ashlands alone. A faint smile crossed the Dragon Lord's face. You underestimate her. Far below, Claire stood and looked once more at the mysterious river. Questions filled her mind. Why hadn't the fire harmed her? Why did it feel familiar? She glanced toward the towering mountains ahead. Whatever answers existed, they waited beyond those peaks. Without realizing it, she had already taken the first step toward the destiny that had been calling her long before the night the moon turned red. The valley faded behind Claire as she climbed higher into the mountains. She glanced over her shoulder one last time. The river of fire had disappeared beneath layers of drifting ash, leaving no trace that it had ever existed. If not for the warmth that still lingered in her fingertips, she might have convinced herself it had been a dream. Nothing about the Ashlands felt real anymore. The deeper she ventured, the stranger the world became. Towering obsidian cliffs replaced the familiar gray stone of the lower valleys. Strange crystals protruded from the mountainsides, glowing faintly beneath the afternoon sun. Even the wind carried a different scent, now less of smoke and more of rain mingled with something ancient she couldn't name. Her waterskin was nearly empty. I should find a stream before sunset. The words disappeared into the silence. Hours later, the narrow mountain trail opened into a wide basin surrounded by black cliffs. Water. A crystal-clear lake rested quietly in its center. Relief washed over her. She hurried forward, dropping to one knee beside the shore. The water was so clear she could see smooth white stones scattered across the bottom. She cupped a handful and drank. Cold. Fresh. Perfect. Only after filling her waterskin did she notice the enormous footprints pressed into the muddy shoreline. Each print was nearly as long as her entire body. 3 deep claw marks trailed from every step. Her pulse quickened. No animal should be this large. Another footprint. Then another. They circled the lake before disappearing toward the cliffs. A low vibration rolled beneath her feet. Not loud. Not violent. Steady. Almost. Like breathing. Claire slowly stood. The lake rippled. A shadow passed beneath the surface. Far too large to be a fish. The water bulged upward. She stepped back. The surface exploded. A massive creature burst from the lake with a deafening roar. Dark emerald scales shimmered beneath the sunlight. Great wings unfolded, sending waves crashing against the rocky shore. Golden eyes locked onto hers. A dragon. Real. Alive. Claire stumbled backward until her heel caught a stone. She hit the ground hard. The dragon lowered its enormous head, studying her with unsettling intelligence. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Her legs refused to move. The beast opened its jaws. Heat radiated from rows of razor-sharp teeth. Fire gathered deep within its throat. "So this is how I die," Claire whispered. The dragon inhaled. A sharp whistle echoed through the mountains. Instantly, the dragon snapped its mouth shut. Its head turned toward the cliffs. Another whistle. Different this time. Commanding. The enormous creature lowered itself obediently. Footsteps echoed across the rocks above. Slow. Measured. Confident. A figure emerged from the shadows. He wore black armor that seemed forged from polished obsidian, trimmed with molten gold that glowed faintly beneath the fading sunlight. A crimson cloak drifted behind him, untouched by the wind. Long black hair framed a face too striking to belong to an ordinary man. His eyes. They were the same impossible shade of molten gold as the dragoness. Claire forgot to breathe. The stranger descended the rocky slope with effortless grace. Neither hurried nor hesitated. The dragon bowed its enormous head the moment he approached. Not out of fear. Out of respect. He stopped several feet from Claire. Silence stretched between them. His gaze swept over her torn cloak, worn boots, and ash-covered face before settling on the moonstone pendant hanging around her neck. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition. It vanished almost immediately. "You crossed the Ashlands alone." His voice was calm. Deep. Each word carried quiet authority. Claire swallowed. Didn't he know anyone lived here?" "Few do." "You saved my life." "I stopped my dragon." She blinked. "My dragon. You own." "I command him." The dragon released a rumbling growl that sounded strangely amused. The man rested one gloved hand against the creature's neck. "His name is Valor." The dragon's golden eyes never left Claire. Wasn't he going to attack you?" She frowned. "He was breathing fire." "He was testing you." "Testing me?" The stranger nodded once. "Dragons recognize things wolves cannot." Claire stared at him. "Who are you?" For the first time, the corners of his mouth lifted ever so slightly. "A traveler." She folded her arms. "Travelers don't command dragons." "No. They don't wear armor like yours either." "Also true." "Then who are you?" He looked toward the crimson sky before answering. A man carrying more responsibilities than he would like. The response irritated her. That's not an answer. It is the only one you may have. Before Claire could press further, another figure landed beside the dragon. Not from the ground. From the sky. A second dragon descended, folding its massive wings as its rider dismounted. Unlike the stranger before her, this newcomer immediately dropped to one knee. My lord. The title echoed through the valley. Claire's heartbeat skipped. The kneeling rider looked up. The Western Patrol reports movement near the southern pass. I expected as much. They ask for your command. The stranger's eyes remained on Claire. Double the watch. Yes, my lord. The rider hesitated. Then his gaze shifted toward Claire. Confusion flashed across his face. A wolf? The stranger answered without looking away from her. She is under my protection. The rider's eyes widened. My lord. That is not a request. The rider lowered his head immediately. Forgive me. Claire's thoughts raced. Only one person commanded dragons. Only one ruler was addressed that way. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. You. The stranger finally met her gaze fully. Understanding settled over her. The stories. The legends. The forgotten kingdom hidden beyond the mountains. Every tale she had dismissed as fantasy. They call you. Her words caught in her throat. The Dragon Lord. Silence answered. He neither confirmed nor denied it. He simply watched her with those ancient golden eyes. Fear should have consumed her. Instead, an unfamiliar sense of safety settled deep within her heart. It made no sense. This man ruled creatures capable of reducing kingdoms to ash. Every wolf had been taught to fear his name. Yet standing before him felt strangely familiar. The Dragon Lord noticed the confusion crossing her face. So did he. For centuries he had searched for the last descendant of a forgotten bloodline. He expected many things when he finally found her. Recognition. Resentment. Curiosity. He had not expected peace. The ancient prophecy was unfolding exactly as foretold. Only one question remained unanswered. Did Claire possess the strength to become the woman destiny required? He intended to find out. The mountains fell silent. Claire stood motionless, her gaze fixed on the man before her. The Dragon Lord. The title alone had haunted countless stories told around Silvercrest's evening fires. Mothers used his name to frighten reckless pups into obedience. Warriors spoke of him in hushed voices, convinced no wolf had ever survived crossing his path. Now he stood only a few feet away from her. He looked nothing like the monster she heard from those tales. He hadn't threatened her, not the slightest. He hadn't drawn a weapon. He hadn't even raised his voice. The dragon beside him was far more intimidating. Daler lowered his massive head until his golden eyes were level with Claire's. Warm air escaped the dragon's nostrils, brushing loose strands of hair across her face. She held her breath, frozen to her position as if stuck to the ground. The creature sniffed her once. Twice. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Daler gently nudged her shoulder with the side of his enormous snout. Almost affectionately. The dragon rider still kneeling nearby stared in disbelief. My lord. The Dragon Lord remained calm. I see it. Daler rumbled deep within his chest before folding his wings neatly against his body. Claire blinked. Why is he doing that? The Dragon Lord answered without taking his eyes off the dragon. He approves of you. I've never even seen a dragon before today. He knows. Knows what? His gaze shifted to her. That you carry no fear in your heart. Claire almost laughed. Are you serious? I'm terrified here. You fear what dragons can do. He paused. You do not fear what they are. She frowned. There was a difference? The Dragon Lord turned toward the lake. Walk with me. His tone carried quiet authority rather than expectation. Claire hesitated a bit. Every lesson she had ever learned urged her to run. Every instinct she possessed urged her to stay. Against her better judgment. She followed. The shoreline curved around the crystal-clear water, hidden beneath towering cliffs that shielded the valley from the outside world. Neither spoke for several minutes. The silence felt surprisingly comfortable. Finally, Claire broke it. You knew I was coming. I did. How? The Ashlands speak. She raised an eyebrow. The mountains? The fire. The dragons. He glanced toward her. They notice more than wolves realize. Claire considered his answer. You've been watching me. Yes. Since when? The night the moon turned red. She stopped walking. You were there? No. Then how could you know? The Dragon Lord looked toward the distant horizon where ash drifted lazily through the air. The blood moon awakened something that had slept for centuries. His voice grew quieter. You. Confusion settled across Clara's face. I don't understand. I know. Then explain. I cannot. Frustration bubbled inside her. You keep speaking in riddles. Because the truth is dangerous. Dangerous for who? For everyone. He resumed walking. Claire hurried after him. You still haven't told me your name. He looked ahead. Names have power. I already know your title. A title is earned. And your name? He remained silent. She sighed. So I'm supposed to keep calling you Dragon Lord? If you wish. I don't. For the first time since meeting him, the faintest hint of amusement crossed his face. You are more stubborn than I expected. I've been told that before. I believe it. The conversation ended as they reached the opposite side of the lake. Steam rose from a cluster of black rocks. Water bubbled from cracks in the earth, forming a small spring that shimmered with strange blue light. The Dragon Lord knelt beside it. Drink. Claire frowned. It glows. So does the moon. That's not reassuring. It is safe. She crouched carefully, scooping a handful of water into her palms. The liquid felt unusually warm. One sip sent a pleasant warmth flowing through her exhausted body. The ache from the broken mate bond eased. Her sore muscles relaxed. Even the persistent heaviness inside her chest seemed lighter. She stared at the spring. What is this? A healing well. It shouldn't exist. Many things in the Ashlands shouldn't. Before she could respond, a sharp sting shot through her left wrist. She gasped. The pain intensified. Dropping the water, she grabbed her arm. What? The Dragon Lord was beside her in an instant. What happened? It burns. She pulled back her sleeve. A thin crimson line had appeared beneath her skin. The line glowed faintly. Another emerged beside it. Then another. The marking spread across her wrist like molten ink, twisting into elegant patterns she had never seen before. She stared in horror. What is happening to me? The Dragon Lord's expression hardened. So soon. You know what this is? Instead of answering, he gently took her wrist. His touch was surprisingly warm. The glowing markings brightened beneath his fingers. Dayla released a low, satisfied rumble. The dragon rider who had accompanied them took an involuntary step backward. It cannot be. The Dragon Lord looked directly at the rider. Say nothing. My lord, the mark. I said nothing. The rider immediately lowered his head. Claire pulled her hand free. Enough. Her voice echoed across the quiet valley. I'm tired of secrets. She looked from the Dragon Lord to the rider. Tell me what this mark means. Neither answered. Anger replaced confusion. I was rejected by my mate. She held up her glowing wrist. I was exiled by my pack. She took a step closer. Now mysterious symbols are appearing on my skin while everyone around me acts as though they already know my future. Her breathing grew uneven. I'm done being the last person to know what's happening in my own life. The Dragon Lord regarded her steadily. You deserve the truth. Then tell me. I will. Hope flickered inside her. When? When you are ready to hear it. Her shoulders slumped. You've got to be kidding. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. No. She threw her hands into the air. I cannot believe this. Daler let out a rumble that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Claire shot the dragon a glare. Don't you start. To her astonishment, Baylor lowered his head and blinked slowly, almost innocently. The Dragon Lord watched the exchange with quiet interest. No dragon has ever behaved this way toward a stranger. I'm beginning to think your dragons are very strange. No. His golden eyes settled on the glowing mark encircling her wrist. It is you who is extraordinary. The warmth in her wrist suddenly intensified. The crimson markings flared brightly. A pulse of energy rippled outward. The ground trembled. High above the valley, every dragon circling the distant peaks lifted its head at the exact same moment. One by one, they roared. The sound rolled across the ashlands like thunder. Every dragon had felt it. The mark of the dragon had awakened. The dragons did not stop roaring. Their voices rolled across the ashlands in endless waves, echoing from one mountain peak to another. Dust drifted from the cliffs, and the crystal blue surface of the lake rippled beneath the force of their cries. Claire instinctively covered her ears. What did I do? The Dragon Lord looked toward the sky where several dragons circled high above the valley. You awakened them. I didn't mean to. I know. His voice remained calm, though his eyes betrayed a concern he carefully concealed. The glowing mark around Claire's wrist slowly dimmed until it resembled a crimson tattoo etched beneath her skin. She stared at it. It's still there. It will remain. Forever? For as long as destiny requires. She let out a slow breath. I still don't know what it is. You will. That answer is becoming very familiar. A flicker of amusement crossed his face. I expected more anger. Oh, I'm angry. She met his gaze without hesitation. I'm simply too exhausted to prove it. Before he could reply, hurried footsteps echoed from the opposite side of the lake. 3 dragon riders descended the rocky slope, each wearing armor forged from dark steel trimmed with crimson. Their dragons landed behind them with powerful beats of their wings, sending gusts of warm air through the valley. Every rider dropped to one knee. My lord. The Dragon Lord inclined his head. What has happened? The eldest of the 3 looked uneasily toward Claire. The entire citadel felt the awakening. Another rider added, the flame pillars ignited on their own. The watchers are asking for an explanation. They received one later. The riders exchanged uncertain glances. The elders wished to convene immediately. They can wait. The eldest hesitated. My lord. I said they can wait. No one argued further. The authority in his voice left no room for debate. Claire watched the exchange in silence. These warriors feared him. Not because he was cruel. Because they respected him. The realization reminded her painfully of Ryan. Respect had never been something he inspired through kindness. He demanded it through power. The Dragon Lord earned it without raising his voice. The comparison unsettled her. The riders mounted their dragons and departed as swiftly as they had arrived. Silence returned. Claire looked at him. You postponed your own counsel because of me. You required answers. I still don't have any. You have your first one. She frowned. Which is? The mark chose you. I didn't choose it. No. His expression grew thoughtful. It chose you because it recognized you. She looked down at her wrist again. I've never seen anything like it. Neither has anyone living. Her eyes widened. Then how do you know what it means? The Dragon Lord remained silent for several moments. Finally, he spoke. Because I have spent centuries searching for it. Claire blinked. Centuries? She immediately shook her head. No. He raised an eyebrow. No? You're exaggerating. I am not. You don't look older than 30. I am considerably older. She laughed nervously. That's impossible. Among wolves. The word settled heavily between them. Her smile faded. You really are. Older than your oldest legend. She searched his face for any sign of deception. There was none. His golden eyes carried a depth unlike anything she had ever seen. Not simply wisdom. Memory. The weight of countless years. An uncomfortable realization crept into her thoughts. The stories had been true. Not just about dragons. About him. You've lived all that time? Yes. Alone? A shadow crossed his expression. Not always. Something in his voice stopped her from asking more. Whatever memories he carried, they still hurt. The path ahead narrowed between towering cliffs until they reached an enormous stone arch carved directly into the mountain. Claire stopped. Her breath caught. The carvings covered every inch of the archway. Dragons. Wolves. Kings wearing crowns of flame. Queens holding staffs shaped like crescent moons. At the center stood a woman with flowing silver hair. One hand rested upon a dragoness muzzle. The other reached toward a kneeling wolf. She looked strangely familiar. Claire stepped closer. I've seen her before. The Dragon Lord's gaze sharpened. Where? I don't know. She frowned. It feels like a memory. He remained perfectly still. What is her name? For the first time since they met, genuine emotion flickered across his face. Queen Aurelia. The name echoed softly through the mountain pass. Who was she? The last ruler to unite dragons and wolves. Claire studied the carving. She looks. She paused. Sad. She was. What happened to her? Betrayal. The single word carried centuries of grief. Claire looked back at the Dragon Lord. You knew her. It wasn't a question. He didn't deny it. The silence was answer enough. A cool breeze swept through the archway. Something shimmered beneath the layers of dust covering the ancient stone. Without thinking, Claire reached out. Her fingertips brushed the carved image of Queen Aurelia. The world exploded into light. Flames. Screams. A battlefield covered in ash. Dragons filled the crimson sky while wolves charged across burning plains. At the center stood the silver-haired queen. Blood stained her white robes. She turned. Their eyes met. Not the carved image. The real woman. She smiled sadly. At last. The queen's voice echoed inside Claire's mind. You have returned. The vision vanished. Claire stumbled backward, gasping for air. The Dragon Lord caught her before she hit the ground. What did you see? Her hands trembled. She struggled to steady her breathing. There was a war. His expression tightened. What else? A woman. The queen? Claire nodded. She looked at me. The Dragon Lord's grip on her shoulders stiffened. What did she say? Claire slowly lifted her eyes to meet his. She said. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. At last, you have returned. For the first time in centuries, the Dragon Lord's composure cracked. Hope. It flashed across his face so quickly that anyone else might have missed it. But Claire saw it. And in that single moment, she understood one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever secret lay buried in her blood, it was far greater than a glowing mark. It was a truth powerful enough to shake the foundations of both wolves and dragons. The journey resumed in silence. Neither Claire nor the Dragon Lord spoke of the vision. She had too many questions. He appeared to have too many answers he refused to give. The mountain pass gradually widened until the jagged cliffs gave way to an open plateau. Warm winds carried the scent of cedar and wildflowers instead of smoke. The ash beneath Claire's boots slowly disappeared, replaced by dark volcanic stone polished smooth by centuries of rain. Nothing looked like the wasteland she had expected. She glanced at the Dragon Lord. I thought the ashlands were supposed to be lifeless. They once were. What changed? He looked toward the horizon. Time. That's all? No. His golden eyes softened. We rebuilt what war destroyed. Those words lingered in her thoughts. Every story she had heard painted dragons as destroyers. No one had ever spoken of them as builders. The narrow path curved around the mountainside. Then Claire stopped walking. Her breath caught. A magnificent city stretched across the valley below. Massive walls of black stone surrounded towering spires crowned with crimson banners. Bridges arched over glowing rivers that wound through the city like ribbons of molten gold. Countless dragons soared between the towers while others rested upon enormous platforms carved into the cliffs. At the city's heart stood a breathtaking castle. Its towers pierced the clouds. Walls of obsidian reflected the afternoon sun with a silver sheen. Golden domes shimmered above elegant halls connected by sweeping bridges. Waterfalls cascaded from the mountains behind the castle, their streams flowing into crystal lakes scattered throughout the valley. The sight stole every word from Claire's lips. This. She shook her head slowly. This can't be real. It is. I was told dragons lived in caves. A faint smile appeared on the dragon lord's face. Wolves tell many interesting stories. I was also told dragons burned everything they touched. He glanced toward the flourishing valley below. Do you still believe that? Claire looked at the thriving city. Children raced across open courtyards. Merchants arranged colorful fabrics beneath stone archways. Garden terraces overflowed with flowers she had never seen before. There was laughter. Music. Life. No. The dragon lord continued walking. Come. She hurried after him. The enormous gates stood open long before they reached them. Dozens of armored guards lined both sides of the entrance. Their armor gleamed like polished obsidian, each breastplate bearing the image of a dragon encircling a crescent moon. Every guard lowered a clenched fist over their heart. My lord. The greeting echoed in perfect unison. The dragon lord acknowledged them with a simple nod. No grand speeches. No display of power. Only quiet respect. Claire instinctively stepped closer to him as they passed through the gates. She felt hundreds of curious eyes following her. The city fell strangely silent. Market vendors paused their work. Blacksmiths lowered their hammers. Children stopped chasing one another. Whispers spread through the streets. A wolf. Inside the citadel? Who is she? She asked with the dragon lord. Look at her wrist. Claire glanced down. The crimson mark had begun glowing again beneath her sleeve. She quickly covered it with her hand. A little girl slipped away from her mother and approached. She couldn't have been older than 6. Golden curls framed her bright amber eyes. She stared openly at Claire before smiling. You came. The innocent words caught Claire off guard. I did. My grandfather said you would. The child's mother hurried over, bowing deeply. My lord, forgive her. The dragon lord's expression remained gentle. There is nothing to forgive. The woman quickly led her daughter away, though the little girl continued looking back over her shoulder. Welcome home, she called. Claire stood frozen. Home? The dragon lord resumed walking. She hurried after him. Why did she say that? Children often notice things adults overlook. That's not an answer. It rarely is. She sighed. I've noticed you enjoy avoiding direct answers. I answer when the time is right. And when will that be? Soon. You've said that before. Yes. You really are impossible. So I've been told. Despite herself, Claire laughed. The sound surprised both of them. She hadn't laughed since the night Ryan rejected her. The realization struck unexpectedly. For the first time in days. Her chest didn't ache quite as much. They crossed a magnificent courtyard where dragons rested beside marble fountains. One enormous silver dragon lifted its head as Claire passed. Instead of growling, it bowed. Another followed. Then another. One by one, every dragon in the courtyard lowered its head toward her. The surrounding guards exchanged bewildered glances. A young soldier whispered, "They've never done that." His companion nodded. Not even for visiting kings. Claire looked around in confusion. What are they doing? The dragon lord answered quietly. They are greeting you. I've never met them. They have never met you. Then why? His gaze lingered on her glowing wrist. Because dragons do not recognize faces. She frowned. What do they recognize? Blood. The word settled heavily between them. Before Claire could ask another question, a loud voice echoed across the courtyard. My lord. An elderly man hurried down the palace steps, his silver robes flowing behind him. His long white hair reached almost to his waist, and a polished staff carved with dragon symbols supported each hurried step. The moment he saw Claire, he stopped. His staff slipped from his grasp and clattered against the stone. His weathered eyes widened. No. His voice trembled. It cannot be. He slowly approached her, tears gathering in his eyes. With shaking hands, he reached toward the glowing mark on her wrist but stopped just short of touching it. I waited. His voice broke. I waited my entire life to see this. The Dragon Lord picked up the fallen staff and handed it back. Master Arinder. The old man accepted it without taking his eyes off Claire. The mark is real. It is. The prophecy has begun. Master Arinder lowered himself onto one knee. Not before the Dragon Lord. Before Claire. Gasps rippled through the gathered guards. The old scholar bowed his head. Welcome to Draconis, Your Grace. Claire stared at him in complete disbelief. I think. She swallowed hard. You've mistaken me for someone else. Master Arinder slowly lifted his head. Tears still shimmered in his eyes. No, child. His voice carried absolute certainty. We have been waiting for you for 500 years. Silence consumed the courtyard. Every dragon remained bowed. Every guard stood motionless. Every eye turned toward the bewildered Omega from Silvercrest. Claire had entered the dragon citadel as an exile. She had no idea why its people were beginning to welcome her like a queen. Silence followed Master Arinder's astonishing declaration. Claire stood in the center of the courtyard, surrounded by kneeling dragons, bewildered guards, and a kingdom that seemed convinced she was someone she had never claimed to be. She wished someone would explain why. Instead, everyone looked to the Dragon Lord. He regarded the gathering with quiet authority. Return to your duties. No one moved. His golden eyes swept across the courtyard. That was not a suggestion. The spell broke instantly. Guards rose to their feet. Merchants resumed their work. The dragons slowly lifted their heads, though many continued glancing toward Claire with unmistakable curiosity. Master Arinder remained where he was. My lord. We will speak later. The elderly scholar bowed. As you wish. He picked up his robes and disappeared into the palace, though not before casting one final hopeful look toward Claire. She waited until he was out of earshot. Your people think I'm some kind of queen. They think you may become one. I don't. I know. She folded her arms. You're still avoiding my questions. The Dragon Lord met her gaze. And you are still asking the right ones. Claire let out an exasperated sigh. I'm beginning to understand why everyone here looks nervous around you. Why? Because talking to you is exhausting. To her surprise, a soft chuckle escaped him. The sound was brief. Warm. Entirely unexpected. Several nearby guards froze. One young soldier nearly dropped his spear. Claire blinked. Did you just laugh? I might have. So you are capable of smiling. I've been told it happens rarely. She smiled despite herself. There may be hope for you yet. The Dragon Lord gestured toward the towering castle. Come. The palace interior surpassed anything Claire had imagined. Sunlight poured through towering crystal windows, filling the vast corridors with golden light. Intricate mosaics covered the floors, depicting dragons soaring beside wolves beneath twin moons. She slowed to admire them. These are beautiful. They tell our history. She knelt beside one particular mosaic. A silver-haired queen stood between a dragon and a wolf, each offering their loyalty. I've seen her before. Queen Aurelia. The woman from the archway. Yes. Claire traced the edge of the mosaic without touching it. Everyone keeps speaking about her. Because everything began with her. And ended with her? His expression darkened. For a time. The corridor opened into an enormous library. Towering shelves stretched toward the ceiling, packed with thousands of leather-bound books and ancient scrolls. Claire's eyes widened. I've never seen so many books. Knowledge survives where kingdoms fall. She walked between the shelves in awe. Do you read all of these? I've read most. She stopped walking. Most? There are still a few I revisit. She stared at him. You really weren't exaggerating about your age. No. How old are you? I stopped counting after my 4th century. Her jaw nearly fell open. 4. She couldn't finish the sentence. He continued walking as though discussing the weather. Claire hurried after him. I don't know whether to believe you. You already do. She hated that he was right. The library ended at a quiet courtyard enclosed by flowering trees. A circular training ground occupied its center. Weapon racks lined one side. Practice dummies stood along another. The Dragon Lord removed his gloves and placed them on a nearby bench. Claire frowned. What are we doing? Training. She looked around. I don't own a sword. You won't need one. I've never trained to fight. You've survived. That's different. It is not. He stepped onto the smooth stone circle. Show me. Show you what? How you defend yourself. She laughed nervously. I don't. You did when the rogue attacked. I panicked. You observed your surroundings. I got lucky. You used leverage instead of strength. He picked up a fallen branch from beside the courtyard. You think like a survivor. He tossed it toward her. Claire caught it awkwardly. I think you're giving me too much credit. Perhaps. He folded his hands behind his back. Attack me. She stared at him. You cannot be serious. I am. You command dragons. Correct. I gather you're hundreds of years old. Also correct. You want me to attack you with a stick? If that makes you feel better. She narrowed her eyes. You're mocking me. A little. She rolled her shoulders. Fine. She swung the branch toward him. He stepped aside effortlessly. The movement barely disturbed the air. She tried again. He avoided the strike just as easily. A third attempt. Nothing. Not once did he block her. Not once did he strike back. He simply wasn't where she expected him to be. After several minutes, Claire lowered the branch, breathing heavily. This is impossible. It is predictable. She frowned. I don't understand. You attack with frustration. Shouldn't I? It clouds your judgment. He picked up another branch. Again. She groaned. You're enjoying this. A little. The corner of her mouth twitched. They continued. This time he spoke between each movement. Watch your opponent's shoulders. She adjusted. Good. Keep your balance. She nearly stumbled. Better. Do not look at the weapon. She lifted her gaze. Look into the eyes. She did. For a brief moment, everything else disappeared. The courtyard. The branches. The castle. Only those ancient golden eyes remained. There was strength within them. Patience. Loneliness. A sadness so deep it made her chest tighten. She hesitated. The Dragon Lord gently tapped her shoulder with the branch. You lost focus. Claire blinked. What distracted you? She looked away. Nothing. He didn't press further. Instead, he set the branch aside. You learn quickly. I lost every exchange. You remained standing. She laughed softly. That's a generous way of judging success. It is the correct one. A servant approached the courtyard entrance and bowed. My lord. He turned. What is it? The Council of Flame has assembled. They can begin without me. The matter concerns the wolf. The servant's eyes briefly shifted toward Claire. They insist it cannot wait. The warmth disappeared from the Dragon Lord's expression. I will attend. The servant bowed again before leaving. Claire sensed the shift immediately. Something's wrong. There are those who believe bringing you here was a mistake. She wasn't surprised. My own pack thought the same. They are not my council. You still have to convince them. No. His voice carried quiet certainty. I have to remind them. Of what? He looked directly at her. Who rules this kingdom? Far across the palace, within a circular chamber carved into the mountain itself, the Council of Flame waited. Some feared Claire's arrival. Others demanded her immediate removal. A few whispered a far darker solution. Before the sun set over Draconis, the rejected Omega would discover that not every dragon welcomed the prophecy. And not every enemy wore a wolf's face. Silvercrest Pack had never felt so restless. The moon circle, once a place of celebration and sacred vows, now stood eerily quiet beneath a pale afternoon sky. Even the breeze seemed reluctant to pass through the ancient stones where a bond had been broken only days before. Ryan stood at the edge of the training grounds, watching two warriors spar. Neither impressed him. Again. The command rang across the field. The younger warrior lunged. His opponent disarmed him within seconds. Ryan frowned. Pathetic. The defeated warrior lowered his head. Forgive me, future alpha. Apologies don't win battles. He turned away before either man could respond. Everything irritated him today. The weapons. The noise. The endless whispers that seemed to follow him wherever he walked. He knew exactly what they were saying. He rejected his fated mate. The blood moon turned red because of him. The moon goddess will never forgive such arrogance. Fools. They feared old legends more than reality. Ryan climbed the stone steps leading to the Alpha S Hall. As he reached the entrance, Beta Ronin stepped out. We need to talk. Ryan kept walking. I'm busy. It concerns the borders. That earned his attention. What happened? A scouting party returned this morning. Ryan folded his arms. And? They found rogue tracks. That's nothing new. The tracks weren't the problem. Ronin's expression remained unusually serious. They stopped at the Ashlands. Ryan frowned. So? They didn't continue. Perhaps the rogues turned back. Perhaps. The beta hesitated. Or perhaps something made them. Ryan dismissed the thought with a wave. Nothing survives long in the Ashlands. Ronin studied him for a moment. You sound very certain. I am. He started toward the hall again. Claire 1T survive a week. The words left his mouth without emotion. As though stating a simple fact. Ronin's jaw tightened. You say her name more often now. Ryan stopped. What? You've said Claire 3 times since yesterday. Ryan looked irritated. She was my mistake. No. Ronin held his gaze. She was your mate. Silence settled between them. The reminder struck harder than Ryan cared to admit. He pushed past the beta. That chapter of my life is over. Is it? Ryan didn't answer. The council meeting dragged on. Trade disputes. Border patrols. Harvest reports. Ryan heard every word. He remembered none of them. His thoughts wandered repeatedly to the Ashlands. Not because he missed Claire. He refused to believe that. He simply wondered whether she had reached the mountains before starving. It was curiosity. Nothing more. Alpha Garrick noticed his distraction. You disagree? Ryan blinked. About what? A few elders exchanged knowing glances. The eastern trade route. Ryan cleared his throat. I agree. One elder coughed into his hand to hide a smile. The meeting ended shortly afterward. As the chamber emptied, Elder Rowan remained behind. So? Ryan looked up. So? You seem troubled. I'm fine. You've always been a poor liar. Ryan sighed. If you're here to lecture me about the rejection. I'm not. The elderly priest slowly approached. I'm here to ask whether you've slept. Ryan frowned. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Not well. For how many nights? Ryan hesitated. Since the blood moon. Elder Rowan nodded, as though expecting the answer. The dreams? Ryan stiffened. You know about them? The moon goddess does not sever sacred bonds without leaving scars. Ryan looked away. Every night had been the same. A woman walking alone through endless ash. A pair of glowing golden eyes watching from afar. Dragons circling a crimson sky. Then. Claire. She never looked at him. No matter how loudly he called her name. She simply walked farther away until she disappeared into fire. He hated those dreams. More than that. He hated waking after them. They're meaningless. Are they? They're dreams. They're warnings. Ryan scoffed. I'm not afraid of dreams. You should fear the choices that created them. The old priest left without another word. Ryan remained alone in the chamber. That evening, rain clouds gathered over Silvercrest. Thunder echoed through the mountains. Ryan stood on the balcony outside his quarters, staring toward the distant peaks that separated the pack from the ashlands. Something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. A strange emptiness lingered inside him. Not pain. Not exactly. More like the absence of something that had always been there. He clenched the stone railing. Forget her. The word sounded hollow. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Enter. A scout hurried inside, drenched from the rain. My lord. Ryan turned. What is it? We've received reports from the southern watchtower. What kind of reports? The scout swallowed nervously. The dragons. Ryan's expression hardened. What about them? They've been flying unusually close to the border. How many? More than anyone has seen in decades. Ryan stepped forward. Did they cross into our territory? No. They remained beyond the mountains. The scout hesitated. But what? They appeared to be guarding something. Ryan's brow furrowed. Guarding? Yes. They flew in circles above the same region for hours. The ashlands? The scout nodded. Exactly. A cold sensation settled in Ryan's chest. Impossible. Dragons had ignored the wolf territories for generations. Why now? He dismissed the scout and returned to the balcony. Rain began to fall. His eyes remained fixed on the dark mountains. For the first time since rejecting Claire, a thought entered his mind that he immediately tried to bury. What if she survived? Another thought followed before he could stop it. What if someone found her? He tightened his fists. No. There was no one living beyond those mountains. Only monsters. Far away, inside the dragon citadel, the Council of Flame gathered beneath a domed ceiling carved with ancient constellations. The Dragon Lord stood before his council. Master Arinder occupied the seat at his right. The remaining elders watched in tense silence. One elder rose. My lord, we cannot ignore the prophecy. We are not. Then why has the wolf not been confined? Another elder stood. If word spreads beyond our borders, every kingdom will come searching for her. A third struck his staff against the floor. She places dracones at risk. The chamber erupted into debate. Only the Dragon Lord remained silent. When the voices finally subsided, he spoke. Claire is under my protection. No one interrupted. No hand will be raised against her. His gaze swept across every elder. If any among you believes otherwise. The air inside the chamber suddenly grew unbearably warm. Golden flames flickered around the Dragon Lord's feet without consuming the stone beneath him. His ancient power filled the room. You may challenge me now. Not a single elder moved. The flames vanished as quickly as they had appeared. The Dragon Lord turned toward the great windows overlooking the city. Beyond them, dragons soared peacefully across the evening sky. He had waited centuries for Claire. He would not allow fear or politics to take her away. Not again. The Council of Flame chamber slowly emptied. One elder after another bowed before the Dragon Lord and departed, their robes whispering across the polished obsidian floor. None challenged his decision again, though their uneasy expressions spoke louder than words. Only Master Arinder remained. He watched the heavy doors close before speaking. They are afraid. The Dragon Lord stood before the great window overlooking Dracones, his hands clasped behind his back. They have reason to be. They fear history repeating itself. Silence answered. After several moments, the old scholar continued. And you? The Dragon Lord's reflection shimmered in the glass. I fear failing her. Master Arinder smiled sadly. You could not save Queen Aurelia. No. But perhaps. The old man's eyes drifted toward the distant training grounds. This time destiny has given you another chance. Claire wandered through one of the palace gardens. She had never imagined dragons cultivating flowers. Colorful blossoms climbed black stone walls, their petals glowing softly beneath the afternoon sun. Crystal streams wound through carefully shaped hedges, while butterflies with shimmering blue wings floated lazily above the water. Everything here challenged the stories she had grown up believing. She knelt beside an unfamiliar flower. Its crimson petals resembled tiny flames. "What are you?" "It is called Embers Grace." Claire looked up. A young woman stood several steps away. She appeared only a few years older than Claire, dressed in a deep burgundy gown embroidered with silver dragons. Long auburn hair cascaded over one shoulder, and amber eyes regarded Claire with open curiosity. "I've never seen one before." "Few outsiders have." The woman smiled warmly. "I'm Alara." "Claire." "I know." Claire laughed softly. "I suppose everyone does by now. News travels quickly inside the citadel." Alara stepped closer. "I'm the royal healer." Claire's eyes brightened. "You heal dragons?" "And their riders." "I've spent years gathering herbs for my pack." "So Master Arinder told me." Alara glanced toward Claire's wrist. "The mark doesn't hurt anymore?" Claire instinctively covered it. "It still burns now and then." "It will." "You know what it means?" Alara hesitated. "I know parts of the story." "Then tell me." "I can't." Claire groaned. "Does everyone here take lessons in avoiding questions?" Alara laughed. "I'm afraid so. I don't like this tradition." "I didn't think you would." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a palace guard. He bowed respectfully. "My lady." Claire immediately looked behind her. The guard smiled awkwardly. "I meant you. I think you've made a mistake. The Dragon Lord requests your presence." Claire sighed. "I'll correct him myself." She found the Dragon Lord waiting inside an enormous circular chamber. Unlike the council room, this hall was almost empty. Weapon racks lined one wall. Ancient shields decorated another. The floor bore the image of a great dragon surrounding a crescent moon. "You wanted to see me?" "I did." He motioned toward the center of the chamber. "Stand there." She looked around suspiciously. "Is this another training lesson?" "No." "Good." She stepped onto the circular emblem. "What now?" The Dragon Lord approached until only a few feet separated them. "I'm going to examine the mark." Claire nodded cautiously. He extended his hand. "May I?" She hesitated only a moment before offering her wrist. The instant his fingers brushed her skin, the crimson markings blazed to life. Heat spread through her arm. The chamber trembled. Both of them instinctively stepped back. The mark continued glowing brighter. The Dragon Lord frowned. "It has never reacted this strongly." "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, a pulse of crimson light burst from the markings. It swept across the chamber like a wave. Every torch ignited simultaneously. The dragon emblem beneath Claire's feet began glowing. She gasped. "I didn't do that." "I know." The floor continued shining. Ancient symbols emerged one after another around the circle. Words. Written in a language Claire had never seen. Yet somehow, she understood them. Without thinking, she whispered the inscription aloud. "When fire and moon become one." The Dragon Lord's eyes widened. "The forgotten blood shall awaken." Claire stopped speaking. "What language was that?" "The old tongue. I've never learned it. No living wolf has." She looked at him in confusion. "Then how could I read it?" He didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Something impossible had happened. Again. The chamber doors burst open. Master Arinder hurried inside, followed by Alara and several startled guards. "My lord." The old scholar froze as he saw the glowing floor. It answered her. He dropped to one knee. "The Chamber of Origins has awakened." Claire looked around helplessly. "Can someone please explain what is happening?" Master Arinder looked to the Dragon Lord. "My lord." The Dragon Lord gave a single nod. "You may tell her one truth." The old scholar rose slowly. "Thousands of years ago," he began, "this chamber was built to recognize the blood of the first royal line." Claire frowned. "I don't understand." "It has remained dormant for over 5 centuries. His voice trembled. Until today. She looked at the glowing symbols beneath her feet. You're saying this room recognized me? Yes. But that's impossible. Perhaps. Master Arinder smiled gently. Yet impossible things seem to happen whenever you're near. Claire looked at the Dragon Lord. I still don't know who I am. He met her gaze. No. But each day. He glanced toward the blazing mark on her wrist. You are becoming someone even history refused to forget. Before Claire could ask another question, a sharp pain shot through her chest. She cried out. The broken mate bond. It burned more fiercely than ever before. At that exact moment, hundreds of miles away in Silvercrest, Ryan stumbled to one knee outside the Alpha S hall. His own chest erupted with the same unbearable pain. He clutched at his heart, struggling to breathe. What is happening? Elder Rowan, who had been crossing the courtyard, rushed toward him. Then the old priest looked up at the crimson moon beginning to rise above the mountains. His face turned pale. It has begun. Far beyond the Wolf Kingdom, the ancient power sleeping within Claire had taken its first true breath. And for the first time since rejecting his fated mate, Ryan felt her presence. Not beside him, but slipping farther beyond his reach. Ryan remained on one knee long after the pain subsided. The courtyard around him had fallen into uneasy silence. Warriors who had witnessed the episode exchanged worried glances but dared not speak. Even the younger wolves, usually quick to whisper among themselves, kept their distance. Alpha Garrick strode from the Alpha S hall. What happened? Before Ryan could answer, Elder Rowan spoke. The moon remembers. Ryan forced himself to his feet, brushing the dust from his trousers. It was nothing. It was not. The old priestess' voice was unusually firm. You felt her. Ryan's jaw tightened. I felt pain. The two are no longer different. I rejected the bond. You rejected the blessing. Ryan looked away, refusing to continue the argument. Return to your duties, Alpha Garrick ordered the gathering wolves. Within moments, the courtyard emptied. Only the three men remained. Elder Rowan stepped closer. Tell me exactly what you experienced. Ryan hesitated. He searched for the words. It felt like someone had reached into my chest. And? There was heat. The old priest frowned. Heat? Not ordinary heat. Ryan looked toward the mountains. It felt like fire. Elder Rowan's expression darkened. Dragon fire. Far beyond the Wolf Kingdom, Claire stood inside the Chamber of Origins. The crimson glow had finally faded, leaving the ancient symbols etched into the black stone floor. Master Arinder carefully examined the markings before turning to the Dragon Lord. It has awakened exactly as the prophecy foretold. The prophecy has only begun, the Dragon Lord replied. Alara looked between them. She deserves more than fragments. I know. Claire folded her arms. I'm standing right here. Both men turned toward her. She exhaled slowly. I've been patient. More patient than most. I don't want riddles. You want to receive them. The Dragon Lord walked toward a carved stone pedestal standing at the center of the chamber. Resting upon it was an old wooden box bound with tarnished silver. He placed his hand upon the lid. I have protected this for centuries. The box opened with a soft click. Inside rested a rolled parchment tied with faded crimson ribbon. Its edges had yellowed with age. The Dragon Lord lifted it carefully, as though afraid it might crumble. This belonged to Queen Aurelia. Claire's heartbeat quickened. The queen from my vision? Yes. He handed the scroll to her. Open it. She untied the ribbon. The parchment contained elegant handwriting unlike anything she had seen before. Yet, just as in the Chamber of Origins, she understood every word. My beloved children. Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. If these words have found you, then the peace I fought to protect has already been lost. She stopped reading. How can I understand this? The blood remembers, Master Arinder answered quietly. Claire continued. There will come a day when wolves and dragons forget they were once family. Her eyes widened. Family? The kingdoms will divide. Fear will replace trust. The truth will be buried beneath lies. She turned another section of the scroll. But one day, the last heir shall return. Silence settled over the chamber. Claire slowly lowered the parchment. The last heir? The Dragon Lord met her gaze. That is what everyone has been waiting to discover. Whether it's me? He nodded. Elsewhere in the citadel, unease spread through the Council of Flame. Lord Varos paced before the council table. He was one of the oldest dragon nobles still living, broad-shouldered and imposing despite his silver hair. This has gone far enough. Several elders nodded. A wolf walks freely through our palace. A marked wolf. A dangerous one. Lord Varos slammed his fist against the table. The prophecy nearly destroyed us once. Another elder spoke cautiously. The Dragon Lord disagrees. He has allowed his judgment to be clouded. The chamber doors opened. Everyone fell silent. The Dragon Lord entered alone. His calm expression revealed nothing. You wish to speak. Lord Varos stepped forward. We wish to object. You already have. You shelter an outsider. I do. A wolf. I am aware. Varos folded his arms. Then hear my challenge. The chamber grew deathly still. Master Arender, who had entered moments behind the Dragon Lord, closed his eyes. My lord. Varos continued. If this woman truly threatens Draconis, I demand the right to judge her. You have no such authority. I invoke the law of the first flame. Several elders gasped. The Dragon Lord's eyes narrowed. You remember old laws. I remember the ones that protect our kingdom. The law of the first flame permits any high lord to challenge the ruler's decision if the realm faces ruin. Varos lifted his chin. I believe it does. Silence lingered. At last, the Dragon Lord stepped down from the dais. You challenge my judgment. I do. You understand the consequences. I do. The Dragon Lord removed the black cloak resting upon his shoulders and handed it to Master Arender. I accepted the throne centuries ago with one promise. His voice echoed through the chamber. I would kneel before no one. Golden fire flickered beneath his boots. The air grew warmer. If anyone believes they can force my hand. His eyes locked onto Varos. They are welcome to try. The flames erupted. Not wildly. Not violently. They spiraled around him like living creatures, illuminating the chamber with brilliant gold. Every elder instinctively stepped backward. Every elder except Varos. The older Dragon Lord stood his ground. I do not seek your throne. No. The Dragon Lord's voice remained calm. You seek to control it. The flames vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. A long silence followed. Then, one by one, every elder lowered themselves to one knee. Not because they had been ordered. Because they remembered. The Dragon Lord had ruled for centuries not through fear, but through strength, wisdom, and unwavering resolve. Lord Varos remained standing. His expression hardened. This isn't over. No, the Dragon Lord agreed. It has only begun. Varos turned sharply and left the chamber. Master Arender watched him disappear. He won to surrender. I never expected him to. You believe he'll act against Claire. He already has. The old scholar frowned. What do you mean? The Dragon Lord looked toward the palace windows overlooking the mountains beyond Draconis. Varos never makes a challenge unless he already has a second plan. At that very moment, far from the council chamber, Claire wandered onto one of the palace balconies, unaware that a pair of amber eyes watched her from the shadow of a nearby tower. A hooded figure quietly slipped away. The message would reach Lord Varos before nightfall. And Claire's first true enemy within Draconis had finally made his move. Moonlight bathed the dragon citadel in silver. From the palace balcony, Claire watched dragons soar through the night sky. Their immense wings caught the moonlight, making them appear like living constellations gliding above the mountains. She rested her hands on the stone railing. Just days ago, she had believed her life was over. Now she stood in a kingdom she had never imagined existed. Nothing made sense anymore. The balcony doors opened quietly behind her. You couldn't sleep either? Claire turned to find Alara carrying 2 steaming cups. I wasn't aware anyone else was awake. The palace rarely sleeps. Alara handed her one of the cups. It's ember tea. Claire took a cautious sip. The drink was warm with a hint of cinnamon and honey. I've never tasted anything like it. It only grows in Draconis. They stood together in comfortable silence. Finally, Alara spoke. You're wondering whether you belong here. Claire smiled faintly. Am I that easy to read? No. Alara looked toward the stars. I asked myself the same question when I first arrived. You weren't born here? I was. She laughed softly. I simply spent many years studying in the eastern sanctuaries. Claire nodded. I still feel like an outsider. You are. The blunt answer surprised her. But outsiders can become family. Claire lowered her gaze. I already lost one family. You lost a pack. Alara gently corrected. There's a difference. Across the palace, the Dragon Lord stood alone inside the Hall of Memories. Unlike the rest of the citadel, this chamber welcomed no visitors. Ancient portraits lined the walls. Kings. Queens. Generals. Guardians. At the very end hung a single painting larger than all the others. Queen Aurelia. She wore silver robes embroidered with dragons and wolves entwined beneath a crimson moon. Her expression carried quiet strength. The Dragon Lord stopped before the portrait. I found her. The words barely rose above a whisper. She isn't ready. His eyes lingered on Aurelia's painted smile. Neither was I when I first met you. Silence answered. He closed his eyes. A memory surfaced. A younger Aurelia laughing beneath blooming cherry trees. A promise exchanged beside a lake of fire. A kingdom united. Then. Flames. Betrayal. Blood. He opened his eyes again. I won't fail her. The following morning, Claire awoke to an unfamiliar sound. Children laughing. She stepped outside her guest chamber. The palace corridors buzzed with unusual excitement. Servants hurried past carrying baskets overflowing with flowers. Colorful banners decorated the walls. Musicians tuned elegant instruments in the central courtyard. She stopped a passing maid. What's happening? The young woman smiled brightly. Founders' Day. What's that? The celebration of Draconis. Before Claire could ask another question, Master Arinder appeared. There you are. He seemed unusually cheerful. I've been looking everywhere. You found me. I did. He gestured toward the courtyard. Come. They descended several flights of stairs until they reached the palace gardens. Hundreds of people had gathered. Dragon riders. Merchants. Children. Scholars. No one appeared frightened. Instead, the atmosphere reminded Claire of the harvest festivals in Silvercrest. Except. People smiled at her. Not with pity. Not with mockery. With genuine warmth. An elderly woman approached carrying a basket. Without saying a word, she placed a small flower crown in Claire's hands. For good fortune. Claire blinked. Thank you. Another person bowed politely before continuing on. Then another. Then another. She turned helplessly toward Master Arinder. Why are they doing this? They're honoring tradition. What tradition? He pointed toward a massive marble statue standing in the center of the gardens. It depicted Queen Aurelia. Unlike the carvings Claire had already seen, this statue held something unusual. A simple flower crown. Master Arinder smiled. Every Founders' Day, the children place fresh flowers upon the Queen's statue. Claire looked down at the crown in her hands. They think I should do it. They hope you will. She hesitated. I don't want to disrespect anyone. You want tea. Slowly, she approached the statue. Children gathered around, watching with wide, hopeful eyes. Claire carefully lifted the flower crown. The moment it rested upon Aurelia's marble head. A warm breeze swept through the gardens. Thousands of flower petals drifted into the air. The great crystal fountain surrounding the statue suddenly shimmered with golden light. Gasps echoed across the crowd. An old gardener fell to his knees. The blessing. It has returned. Master Arinder stared at the glowing fountain in astonishment. It hasn't he awakened since? His voice faded. Claire stepped backward. I didn't he do anything? The Dragon Lord, who had just entered the gardens, quietly observed the scene. No. His voice carried across the gathering. You simply reminded it. Everyone turned toward him. The golden light slowly faded. Excited whispers spread through the crowd. The gardens accepted her. The Queen's blessing answered. It must be true. Claire looked increasingly overwhelmed. They keep saying things I don't understand. The Dragon Lord approached. I know. When will they stop treating me like someone else? He regarded her thoughtfully. When you stop believing you are. She frowned. I don't follow. You think a crown makes a ruler. He gently adjusted the crooked flower crown still resting in her hands. It doesn't he? His eyes held hers. A crown is merely something worn. His gaze shifted toward the statue of Aurelia. Character is what people choose to follow. Claire looked around the gardens. Children smiled at her. The elderly woman who had gifted her the flowers nodded warmly. Even the palace guards regarded her with quiet respect. No one had ordered them to. No one had demanded it. It had happened naturally. For reasons she still couldn't understand. Later that afternoon, deep within the western tower, Lord Varro stood before the hooded spy. You saw the fountain yourself? I did. The blessing awakened. Varros's expression darkened. So the prophecy continues. The spy lowered his voice. There is another matter. What? The wolf has begun earning the people's affection. Varros walked to the tower window overlooking the bustling gardens. Below, Claire laughed as several dragon hatchlings curiously circled around her feet. The sight only deepened his scowl. Affection becomes loyalty. He clenched his fists. Loyalty becomes power. The spy remained silent. Varros looked toward the distant mountains. If the people choose her. His voice grew cold. They may one day choose her over me. He turned back to the spy. Prepare the trial. The hooded figure bowed. Which one, my lord? Varros's lips curved into a thin smile. The trial of embers. The wolf will never survive it. Exactly. Far below, unaware of the danger gathering in the shadows, Claire smiled as a tiny dragon hatchling climbed onto her shoulder. The little creature curled comfortably against her neck, as though it had found someone familiar. High above the palace, the Dragon Lord watched the scene from a distant balcony. For the first time in centuries, hope felt stronger than grief. Unfortunately, hope had a way of attracting those determined to destroy it. The morning began with peace. Golden sunlight spilled across the dragon citadel, illuminating its towering spires and crystal bridges. Merchants opened their stalls while dragon hatchlings chased one another through the courtyards. Riders prepared for patrol, their dragons stretching powerful wings before taking to the skies. For the first time since arriving in Draconis, Claire felt calm. She stood in the palace gardens beside Alara, carefully tending a bed of Ember-esque grace flowers. I never imagined gardening could be this difficult, Claire admitted as she brushed dirt from her hands. Alara laughed. You're trying too hard. I've always gathered herbs, not grown them. Plants know the difference. Claire smiled. Everything in this kingdom seems to know things I don't. Before Alara could reply, a loud horn echoed through the valley. Once. Twice. Then a third time. The laughter throughout the gardens vanished. Dragon riders immediately mounted their beasts. Guards rushed toward the city walls. The expressions on their faces were no longer relaxed. They're sounding the outer alarm, Alara whispered. What does that mean? It means someone has reached the gates. High above the city, the Dragon Lord stepped onto the western battlements. Captain Raiden landed beside him atop a bronze dragon. My lord. Report. A company of wolves has arrived. The Dragon Lord's eyes narrowed. An army? No. How many? 15. He frowned. Too few for war. Too many for diplomacy. The Dragon Lord looked toward the massive gates below. Who leads them? Raiden hesitated. They carry the crest of Silvercrest. Claire's pack. Word spread through the palace within minutes. Claire found Master Arinder hurrying through the corridor. What happened? He stopped. There are visitors. Who? Wolves. Her heart skipped. Silvercrest? He nodded. 100 thoughts flooded her mind. Had Ryan come? Had the pack changed its mind? Or had they discovered where she was? I'm going to the gates. Master Arinder gently caught her arm. The Dragon Lord asked that you remain inside. They're my people. They were. His words stung. She pulled away. I need to know why they're here. Without waiting for permission, she hurried toward the western tower. Outside the enormous gates of Dracones, 15 mounted wolves waited beneath fluttering white banners. Their leader removed his hood. It wasn't Ryan. It was Beta Ronan. Behind him stood several warriors Claire recognized. Faces she had grown up beside. Some had trained with her. Others had ignored her existence. One, however, caught her attention immediately. Mira. The elderly healer who had secretly treated Claire's wounds since childhood. She looked thinner than before. Older. The Dragon Lord stood atop the gatehouse. You requested entry. Ronan inclined his head respectfully. I come under a banner of peace. State your purpose. We seek one of our own. A heavy silence followed. The Dragon Lord's expression remained unreadable. Your own? The woman called Claire. His voice carried across the valley. She belongs to Silvercrest. The Dragon Lord answered calmly. Does she? Ronan hesitated. She was born among us. She was rejected among you. None of the wolves answered. The silence became its own confession. Finally Ronan spoke again. Our alpha wishes her to return. The Dragon Lord's golden eyes hardened. Your alpha forfeited that right. Hidden behind the battlements, Claire listened in stunned silence. Ryan wanted her back? Why? She had barely survived his rejection. Nothing had changed. Or had it? A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. You shouldn't be here. She turned. The Dragon Lord stood behind her. I needed to hear this. You have. She looked toward the gates. Why would Ryan send them now? The Dragon Lord remained quiet. Then he asked a question. What changed after you left? She frowned. I don't know. The answer isn't in Silvercrest. He gently pointed toward her wrist. It's here. The mark had begun glowing again. Below, Lord Varos watched the exchange from another section of the wall. A slow smile spread across his face. Interesting. One of his captains approached. My lord? The wolves have arrived at the perfect time. You intend to let them inside? No. His smile widened. I intend to make use of them. Back at the gates, Ronan stepped forward. We are not here to fight. Captain Raiden answered before the Dragon Lord could speak. Then why bring armed warriors? Because the road is dangerous. The explanation sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. The Dragon Lord noticed several details others missed. The warriors carried travel packs. But very little food. Their horses were tired. Yet their weapons had been freshly sharpened. Most telling of all. 3 wolves repeatedly scanned the walls instead of speaking. Not like visitors. Like scouts. The Dragon Lord's instincts sharpened. You've traveled a long way. We have. You may rest outside the gates. Ronan frowned. You refuse us entry? I refuse uncertainty. We come peacefully. So you claim. The beta took a slow breath. Our alpha regrets what happened. High above the wall, Claire closed her eyes. The words should have meant something. Instead, they felt empty. Regret could not erase humiliation. It could not undo exile. It certainly could not restore the part of her heart that had died beneath the blood moon. The Dragon Lord looked toward the gates. If your alpha truly regrets his actions. His voice echoed across the valley. He may come himself. Ronan lowered his gaze. I'm afraid he cannot. And why is that? The beta hesitated. Before he could answer, Mira suddenly stepped forward. Ignoring every protocol, the elderly healer raised her voice. Because he is dying. Silence crashed over the valley. Even the dragons circling overhead seemed to pause. Claire's breath caught. The dragon lord slowly turned toward Mira. Dying? The old healer nodded, tears filling her eyes. The bond he shattered is destroying him. A murmur spread among the dragon guards. Master Arender's expression darkened. The dragon lord remained perfectly still. What exactly are you asking of Claire? Mira looked toward the hidden battlements, as though she somehow knew the young Omega was there. We're asking. Her voice broke. For her to save the man who destroyed her. Behind the stone wall, Claire's hands trembled. She never expected to hear those words. Not from Silvercrest. Not ever. And somewhere in the shadows of the western tower, Lord Varro smiled. The wolves had unknowingly delivered exactly what he needed. A divided heart was far easier to break than an unshaken one. The revelation lingered over the dragon citadel like a storm cloud. No one spoke as the wolves were escorted to a temporary encampment outside the gates. Though they had come under a banner of peace, they remained under heavy guard. Dragons perched upon the walls, their sharp eyes never leaving the visitors below. Inside the palace, Claire stood alone in her chamber. Ryan was dying. The words echoed relentlessly in her mind. She should have felt satisfaction. After everything he had done, rejecting her before the entire pack, casting her into the ashlands, leaving her to die, part of her had imagined justice would one day find him. Instead, she felt nothing she could understand. A knock came at her door. Come in. The dragon lord entered quietly. His expression was as composed as ever, but his eyes searched hers. You've been avoiding everyone. Claire gave a tired smile. I wasn't he aware anyone noticed. I did. She looked out the window toward the mountains. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. You don't have to decide today. He rejected me. I know. He humiliated me. I know. He wanted me gone. The dragon lord remained silent. Claire's voice softened. So why does hearing he's dying make me feel guilty? He walked beside her. Because compassion isn't weakness. She looked at him. It isn't? No. His gaze remained fixed on the horizon. It is often the greatest strength a ruler can possess. She frowned. You keep speaking as though I'll rule someone one day. He didn't answer. Not because he wished to avoid the question. Because he believed the answer was already unfolding. Outside the city walls, Beta Ronan sat beside a small fire. Mira wrapped a blanket around her shoulders as the mountain air grew colder. You think she'll come? Ronan sighed. I don't know. You saw her? Only for a moment. The old healer stared into the flames. She looked stronger. She did. Different. Ronan nodded. There was confidence in her eyes. He remembered the frightened Omega who had spent years lowering her gaze whenever Ryan entered a room. The young woman hidden behind the Dragon Lord's battlements had not looked away once. Silvercrest had changed her. No. Silvercrest had broken her. Draconis was putting the pieces back together. Night settled over the mountains. The Dragon Lord stood alone upon the highest tower of the palace. A warm wind stirred his dark cloak. Without turning around, he spoke. You've been following me for several minutes. A figure emerged from the shadows. Lord Varos. I wish to speak privately. You rarely wish anything without purpose. Varos smiled faintly. I've always admired your perception. What do you want? The wolf. The Dragon Lord's expression remained unreadable. What about her? Send her back. No. You haven't even considered it. I considered it before you arrived. And? The answer remained the same. Varos folded his hands behind his back. One woman isn't worth risking our kingdom. The Dragon Lord finally turned toward him. She is. The certainty in his voice unsettled even Varos. You've become emotionally involved. I've become responsible. There is a difference. There is. Varos stepped closer. If she returns, the prophecy ends. You don't know that. I know enough. You know fear. Varos's eyes hardened. I know history. So do I. Silence stretched between them. Then Varros spoke the words he had carefully withheld. I knew Queen Aurelia. The Dragon Lord's expression changed. Only slightly. But enough. Varros noticed. You weren't the only one who loved her. The mountain wind suddenly grew warmer. Golden flames flickered briefly around the Dragon Lord's feet before disappearing. Be careful. The warning carried no anger. Only quiet resolve. Varros smiled. I expected a greater reaction. You hoped for one. I hoped to remind you. You reminded me of nothing. Varros' smile faded. The past made us who we are. No. The Dragon Lord looked toward the moon. Our choices do. Meanwhile, Claire wandered the palace gardens, unable to sleep. The moon reflected across the crystal ponds, bathing the flowers in silver light. She stopped beside Queen Aurelia's statue. So. She whispered. If everyone is right. What am I supposed to become? The garden remained still. Then. The crimson mark on her wrist began glowing. Not painfully. Gently. A soft warmth spread through her hand. The statue shimmered. Claire stepped backward. The marble eyes of Queen Aurelia seemed almost alive. A faint figure slowly emerged from the statue. Transparent. Radiant. Beautiful. Claire stared in disbelief. You. The woman smiled. I cannot remain long. Claire struggled to breathe. Are you? A memory. The apparition corrected gently. Not the queen herself. You look exactly like her. I am what she chose to leave behind. Claire swallowed. Why me? Because you answered. I didn't answer anything. You crossed the flames. The spirit took a slow step forward. You chose kindness when bitterness was easier. Claire lowered her gaze. I don't feel strong. You are. I don't know who I am. You will. The apparition reached out. Though her fingers never touched Claire's forehead, warmth spread through her mind. Images flooded her vision. A palace. A cradle carved from silver wood. A woman singing softly. A baby laughing. Then. Fire. Smoke. A cloaked figure carrying the child away beneath the cover of darkness. Another figure pursued them through burning corridors. A dragon roared. The vision shattered. Claire staggered backward. My parents. The spirit's expression grew sorrowful. They loved you. You knew them? I watched over them. They died? They sacrificed everything. Claire felt tears gathering in her eyes. They saved me? They saved hope. The spirit slowly began fading. Wait. So much remains unsaid. It must. I have questions. You will find your answers. The glow surrounding the apparition weakened. But remember this. Her voice echoed through the quiet garden. You were never abandoned. Then she was gone. Only moonlight remained. A distant roar suddenly echoed across the valley. Not from within Draconis. From beyond its borders. Another roar answered. Then another. Alarm horns sounded throughout the city. Guards rushed toward the eastern walls. Dragons launched into the sky. The Dragon Lord appeared beside Claire almost instantly. What happened? Before anyone could answer, Captain Raiden landed hard in the garden, his dragon breathing heavily after an exhausting flight. My lord. What is it? The eastern watchtowers have been attacked. The Dragon Lord's eyes narrowed. By whom? Raiden looked toward the mountains beyond the wolf territories. His voice was grim. Not wolves. A heavy silence followed. Someone is hunting dragons. The words sent a chill through everyone present. For centuries, no kingdom had dared wage war against Draconis. Tonight. Someone had made the first move. The palace erupted into motion. Alarm bells echoed through every corridor as dragon riders rushed toward the eastern skies. Servants hurried children into underground shelters while soldiers raced to the armories. Claire stood frozen in the palace garden. Someone is hunting dragons. Captain Raiden gave a grim nod. They struck one of our eastern patrols. Who? The Dragon Lord asked. We don't know. Were there survivors? A few. Bring them to the infirmary. At once, my lord. The captain leaped onto his dragoness back. With a powerful beat of its wings, the bronze dragon disappeared into the night. The dragon lord turned to Claire. Go inside. I'm coming with you. No. I can help. You don't know what you're walking into. And you do? I've seen wars begin. His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable heaviness behind it. I want to let this become your first battlefield. Before Claire could argue, he walked away. Within moments, a magnificent black dragon descended into the garden. Baylor. The great dragon lowered himself, allowing the dragon lord to climb effortlessly onto his back. Before taking flight, he looked down at Claire. Stay in the palace. Then Baylor launched into the sky. The eastern border of Draconis was in chaos. Smoke drifted above the cliffs. Broken watchtowers smoldered beneath the moonlight. Several wounded dragons rested on the rocky ground while healers moved frantically between them. The dragon lord landed beside the largest dragon, whose silver scales were stained with blood. What happened? The wounded rider struggled to sit upright. They weren't ordinary hunters. Who were they? They wore no crest. No kingdom? The rider shook his head. They fought like mercenaries. Another soldier limped forward. They knew exactly where to strike. The dragon lord examined the wounds. The arrows embedded in the dragon's scales were black. Unnaturally black. He carefully removed one. The metal hissed against his fingertips. His expression hardened. Shadow iron. Captain Ryden looked stunned. I thought it had been destroyed centuries ago. So did I. Shadow iron was more than a weapon. It had been forged specifically to pierce dragon scales. Someone hadn't simply attacked them. Someone had prepared for generations. Back in the palace, Claire ignored the dragon lord's instructions. Not completely. She didn't leave the citadel. Instead, she made her way to the infirmary. Every bed was occupied. Some held dragon riders. Others held dragons themselves. The sight broke her heart. One young dragon whimpered softly as Alara treated a deep wound across its wing. Can I help? Alara looked up. You know herbal medicine? A little. We need fresh moonleaf. I know where it grows. Then come. For the next several hours, Claire worked without stopping. She ground herbs. Prepared poultices. Comforted frightened hatchlings separated from their riders. One elderly dragon repeatedly refused treatment until Claire gently rested her hand against its muzzle. The creature immediately relaxed. Alara noticed. So that's true. What is? They really do trust you. Claire smiled faintly. I don't know why. Neither do I. But Alara suspected the answer was older than either of them. Near dawn, the dragon lord returned. His armor bore fresh scratches. Ash covered his cloak. He found Claire asleep beside the elderly dragon she helped treat. One hand still rested gently against its scales. The dragon had curled protectively around her without anyone noticing. The sight stopped him. Master Arinder quietly joined him. She refused to leave. I expected as much. The old scholar smiled. The dragons did something remarkable tonight. The dragon lord looked toward him. They accepted her. They've accepted her since she arrived. No. Master Arinder shook his head. Tonight was different. He pointed toward the sleeping dragon. That one has never allowed anyone outside the royal family to touch him. The dragon lord's eyes lingered on Claire. Until now. A loud cry suddenly echoed through the infirmary. Everyone turned. The elderly dragon had awakened. Slowly. Painfully. The massive creature lowered its head toward Claire. She stirred from sleep. What happened? The dragon touched its forehead gently against hers. The crimson mark on Claire's wrist ignited. Golden light spread through the room. Every dragon present lifted its head. One by one. They bowed. Not to the dragon lord. To Claire. Silence consumed the infirmary. Even Alara forgot to breathe. Master Arinder whispered the words almost reverently. The ancient greeting. Claire looked around in alarm. Why are they doing this? No one answered. The dragons remained bowed. The Dragon Lord slowly stepped forward. He had seen dragons acknowledge kings. He had seen them honor queens. He had never witnessed every dragon bow at once. Valor entered the infirmary, ducking his enormous head beneath the archway. Without hesitation, the mighty dragon bowed as well. The room grew impossibly still. Then Valor did something no dragon had done in over 5 centuries. He spoke. Not with words. With thought. A deep voice echoed inside every mind in the room. The blood of the first flame has returned. Gasps filled the infirmary. Claire looked around in confusion. Did she swallowed? Did everyone hear that? No one answered immediately. They were too stunned. Master Arinder's knees gave way. Tears streamed freely down his weathered face. The prophecy. He whispered. It has awakened. The Dragon Lord looked at Claire with an expression she had never seen before. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't relief. It was certainty. Centuries of waiting, searching, hoping, had led to this single moment. But before anyone could speak, a palace guard burst through the infirmary doors. My lord. The Dragon Lord turned sharply. What is it? The young guard struggled to catch his breath. The wolves. What about them? They disappeared. Raiden frowned. The camp is empty? Not entirely. What do you mean? The guard's face had gone pale. They left one body behind. Silence fell. Whose body? The Dragon Lord asked. The guard looked toward Claire before answering. Beta Ronin. The warmth in the infirmary vanished instantly. Someone had murdered Silvercrest's Beta. Inside dragon territory. And unless the truth was uncovered quickly, war between wolves and dragons had just become inevitable. The dragon citadel fell into stunned silence. No one moved after the guard's words. Beta Ronin was dead. The Dragon Lord's expression hardened. Take me to him. Yes, my lord. Captain Raiden followed closely behind, while Master Arinder motioned for the healers to remain with the injured. Claire took a step forward. I'm coming. The Dragon Lord turned. No. He came because of me. Exactly. His voice was gentle but firm. If this is what I fear it is, you cannot be seen. Claire hated admitting it, but he was right. If the wolves believed the dragons had murdered their beta, she would become the center of the blame. The eastern encampment outside the city walls was deserted. Tents flapped in the morning breeze. Cooking fires had burned themselves into ash. Weapons and supplies had been abandoned in haste. In the center of the camp lay Ronin's body. His eyes remained open, staring toward the mountains. Captain Raiden knelt beside him. No signs of struggle. The Dragon Lord crouched quietly. Ronin's clothes were stained with blood, but his sword remained sheathed. He trusted whoever approached him. Raiden frowned. His wounds. The Dragon Lord examined the deep puncture in Ronin's chest. This wasn't done by a dragon. No claw marks. No burns. He gently lifted the torn fabric surrounding the wound. There. Raiden leaned closer. A thin fragment of black metal remained lodged near the wound. The Dragon Lord carefully removed it. His eyes darkened. Shadow iron. Again. Someone had used the same forbidden metal. Only this time. Against a wolf. Raiden looked toward the empty camp. They wanted us to find him. Yes. They're framing us. They're trying to. The Dragon Lord slowly stood. But they underestimated one thing. What? I've seen this before. Hours later, inside Silvercrest, panic spread through the pack. The surviving wolves had returned. Without Ronin. Without Mira. Without answers. Alpha Garrick slammed both hands onto the council table. Explain. One frightened warrior stepped forward. We were attacked during the night. By dragons? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? It was dark. They wore cloaks. They killed the beta. They took the healer. Ryan rose from his chair. They kidnapped Mira? The warrior nodded. We searched until sunrise. There was no trace of her. Ryan's chest tightened. Ronan had been his closest friend since childhood. The beta had stood beside him through every battle. Every victory. Every mistake. Now he was gone. Alpha Garrick looked around the council chamber. This is an act of war. Several elders nodded immediately. They declared their intentions. We must respond. Elder Rowan remained silent. Ryan noticed. You disagree? The old priest looked toward the window. I disagree with certainty. The beta is dead. Yes. The healer is missing. Yes. What more proof do you need? Rowan slowly turned. Proof. Deep beneath the dragon citadel. Mira opened her eyes. She wasn't tied. She wasn't injured. She simply wasn't free. The room resembled an old prison cell carved into the mountain itself. A single torch burned outside the iron door. She sat up slowly. Hello? No answer. She walked to the door. Is anyone there? Silence. Then. Footsteps. The door creaked open. Not a guard. Lord Varos. Mira immediately stepped backward. You. Varos smiled politely. I'm pleased to see you're awake. Why am I here? For your own protection. She glared at him. You murdered Ronan. His smile disappeared. I did no such thing. You're lying. I merely arranged events. Her heart sank. You want wolves and dragons to fight. I want draconis to survive. Innocent people will die. So they always do. Mira clenched her fists. Claire will stop you. Varos laughed softly. She doesn't even know who she is. He turned to leave. Enjoy your stay. The heavy door slammed shut. Mira rushed toward it. You can't hide the truth forever. Varos's footsteps faded into the darkness. That evening, the Dragon Lord gathered his council. Every seat was occupied. The atmosphere was tense. Captain Raiden placed the fragment of shadow iron on the table. This was recovered from Beta Ronan. Murmurs filled the chamber. Lord Varos leaned forward. Interesting. The Dragon Lord watched him carefully. You recognize it? I recognize many things. So do I. Silence settled. Master Arinder broke it. My lord. The Dragon Lord rose. Someone attacked dragons. He looked around the chamber. The same someone murdered a wolf. His eyes moved slowly from one elder to another. They intend to start a war. One council member nodded. It seems obvious. No. The Dragon Lord corrected calmly. It only seems convenient. His gaze rested on Varos for a heartbeat longer than anyone else. Varos remained perfectly composed. You suspect someone within draconis? I suspect anyone who profits from bloodshed. Several elders exchanged uneasy looks. The Dragon Lord continued. Until the truth is uncovered, no dragon is to cross into wolf territory. Varos frowned. We should strike first. No. They'll attack eventually. Perhaps. The Dragon Lord's voice remained steady. But they won't say we started it. Late that night, Claire wandered through the palace library. Sleep refused to come. Too many questions. Too many lives changing because of her. She stopped before a shelf filled with ancient scrolls. One leather-bound book caught her attention. It had no title. Only a silver crescent engraved on the cover. Curious, she opened it. The pages were blank. She frowned. That's disappointing. As she prepared to close it, a drop of blood from a small cut on her finger landed on the page. The book immediately began glowing. Words slowly appeared across the parchment. Not written. Revealed. Claire's eyes widened. She read the first line aloud. When the kingdoms stand upon the edge of war. The pages turned by themselves. Beware the dragon clothed in loyalty. Another page. For the greatest enemy shall rise. The final sentence appeared in brilliant crimson. Not from beyond the gates. A cold breeze swept through the library. The candles flickered. The last words slowly formed before her eyes. But from within the throne, the glow vanished. The library fell silent once more. Claire stared at the ancient book. Someone inside Draconis, someone close to the throne, was about to betray them all. And she knew exactly who she needed to tell. The ancient book trembled in Claire's hands. The crimson words slowly faded until the pages became blank once more, as though nothing had ever been written. She stared at the empty parchment, her pulse pounding against her ribs. Beware the dragon clothed in loyalty. The greatest enemy shall rise, not from beyond the gates, but from within the throne. The warning echoed relentlessly inside her mind. She shut the book and hurried through the towering shelves of the library. The palace corridors were nearly deserted at this hour. Moonlight poured through the stained glass windows, painting the polished floors in shades of blue and silver. Every step she took seemed louder than the last. She needed to find the Dragon Lord. Now. She found him in the Hall of Flames. The enormous chamber overlooked the eastern cliffs where dragon riders still patrolled after the recent attack. Several maps lay spread across a stone table while Captain Raiden, Master Arinder, Alara, and a handful of commanders discussed troop movements. The Dragon Lord looked up the moment Claire entered. Something in her face immediately caught his attention. What happened? I found something. She placed the ancient book on the table. It spoke to me. The commanders exchanged puzzled glances. Master Arinder stepped closer. The Book of Sovereigns? You know it? The old scholar nodded slowly. I thought it had sealed itself forever. I opened it. How? I don't know. She hesitated. There was a cut on my finger. Master Arinder's eyes widened. Blood. The Dragon Lord's expression became thoughtful. You activated it. Claire nodded. It showed me a warning. Everyone in the chamber fell silent. What warning? Captain Raiden asked. Claire repeated every word exactly as she had read them. No one interrupted. When she finished, the silence became heavier. Master Arinder slowly lowered himself into a chair. I feared this day. Captain Raiden frowned. You believe the book? I believe it has never been wrong. One commander scoffed. A prophecy hidden inside an old book shouldn't dictate military decisions. The Dragon Lord looked at him. It isn't a prophecy. What is it? A record. The commander frowned. A record of what? The future remembered by the past. The room grew quiet again. Claire looked toward the Dragon Lord. You know who it means. I have suspicions. Lord Varos. Several commanders exchanged uneasy glances. Captain Raiden folded his arms. He has openly opposed Claire since her arrival. Opposition isn't treason, the Dragon Lord replied. No. Claire spoke softly. But murder is. Every eye turned toward her. The person behind Ronin's death wanted wolves and dragons to go to war. The Dragon Lord nodded. And they wanted me blamed. Master Arinder sighed. Unfortunately, wanting something and proving it are very different matters. Far away, Silvercrest mourned. Ronin's empty grave stood at the center of the moon circle. No body had been returned. Only his sword. The entire pack gathered in silence while Elder Rowan completed the rites reserved for fallen warriors. Ryan stood at the front. His face had grown noticeably thinner over the past week. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten properly. The strange pain inside his chest returned several times each day, each episode leaving him weaker than before. When the ceremony ended, the wolves slowly dispersed. Only Elder Rowan remained beside him. You blame yourself. Ryan stared at Ronin's sword. He followed my orders. He chose to. I sent him. You asked him. Ryan's voice cracked. What's the difference? The old priest rested a weathered hand on his shoulder. The difference is that guilt makes every burden seem heavier than it truly is. Ryan looked toward the Ashlands. I keep seeing her. Claire? He nodded. In my dreams. The old priest wasn't surprised. What does she do? She walks away. Ryan swallowed. No matter how fast I run, I can never reach her. Elder Rowan closed his eyes. The moon goddess is showing you a truth. What truth? Some distances cannot be crossed with your feet. That afternoon, Alpha Garrick summoned the council. The atmosphere inside the Alpha S hall was grim. Several elders demanded immediate retaliation against Draconis. They killed our beta. They kidnapped Mira. They insulted Silvercrest. One elder slammed his staff against the floor. If we remain silent, every neighboring pack will call us weak. Ryan listened without speaking. Finally, Alpha Garrick turned toward him. You've said very little. Ryan slowly stood. I don't think the dragons killed Ronan. The chamber erupted. What? Have you lost your mind? They admitted Claire is with them. Ryan raised his voice. I said I don't think they murdered him. Silence gradually returned. Alpha Garrick narrowed his eyes. Explain. Ryan took a slow breath. Ronan was cautious. He trusted very few people. He wouldn't lower his guard simply because he saw a dragon. The Alpha considered the point. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting someone wanted us to believe the dragons were responsible. Several council members frowned. Elder Rowan smiled faintly. Continue. Ryan looked around the room. If we're manipulated into attacking Draconis. He paused. We'll be fighting the wrong enemy. The council fell into thoughtful silence. For the first time since Claire's exile, Ryan wasn't acting out of pride. He was thinking. Night descended over the dragon citadel. Claire stood alone on one of the western balconies, watching the stars appear above the mountains. She sensed someone approaching before hearing footsteps. The dragon lord joined her. Neither spoke for several moments. Finally, Claire broke the silence. Do you ever get tired? He smiled faintly. Often. I don't mean physically. I know. She rested her arms on the stone railing. Carrying everyone's expectations. She looked toward the city below. Does it ever become too much? The dragon lord followed her gaze. Every day. She looked surprised. You make it seem easy. It isn't. What keeps you going? He remained silent long enough that she wondered if he intended to answer. Then he spoke. When I became ruler, my mentor asked me one question. What was it? Do you wish to wear the crown? He looked at her. Or carry the kingdom? She frowned thoughtfully. There's a difference. A great one. He smiled faintly. Many desire the first. Very few choose the second. Claire thought about Ryan. He had wanted power. Respect. Authority. The Dragon Lord never seemed interested in any of those things. Yet everyone followed him willingly. I think. She said quietly. I'm beginning to understand. His golden eyes met hers. What? The difference between an alpha. She hesitated. And a true leader. For the first time since they had met, silence settled between them without awkwardness. It felt comfortable. Safe. The Dragon Lord noticed the moonlight reflecting in her silver eyes. Claire noticed how peaceful he looked when he wasn't carrying the weight of command. Neither realized how close they had drifted toward one another. A sudden knock shattered the moment. Captain Ryden bowed quickly. My lord. What is it? A wolf has arrived at the eastern gate. The Dragon Lord frowned. Another delegation? No. Who? Ryden looked toward Claire. He came alone. A strange feeling settled in her chest. Who is it? Captain Ryden's answer stole the breath from her lungs. Ryan. Silence filled the balcony. He refuses to leave, Ryden continued. He says he will remain outside the gates. Until Claire hears what he has to say. The Dragon Lord looked at Claire. He saw uncertainty in her eyes. Not love. Not longing. Only the painful weight of unfinished history. And below the towering walls of Draconis, beneath a cold midnight sky, the future Alpha of Silvercrest dropped to both knees before the closed gates. For the first time in his life, Ryan was prepared to beg. The news spread through the Dragon Citadel before sunrise. An alpha had come alone. Not with soldiers. Not with an army. Not beneath a banner of war. He had come on his knees. From the highest tower, Claire stood at the window of her chamber, unable to tear her eyes away from the distant eastern gate. Though she could barely make out the figure beyond the walls, she knew it was Ryan. The same man who had looked into her tear-filled eyes beneath a blood moon and declared before the entire Silvercrest pack that he would rather have no mate than an Omega like her. Now. He was waiting outside another King's gates. Waiting for her. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Alara entered carrying a breakfast tray. You haven't slept. Claire smiled weakly. Was it that obvious? You've been standing at that window since dawn. Alara set the tray down. You don't have to face him today. I know. But you think you will? Claire didn't answer. She didn't know what she would do. She only knew that seeing Ryan again threatened to reopen wounds she had barely begun to heal. Outside the eastern gates, Ryan remained exactly where he had spent the night. Rain had fallen for hours. His dark cloak clung to his shoulders, soaked through by the cold mountain storm. Several dragon guards watched him from the walls above. Captain Raiden arrived shortly after sunrise. He hasn't moved. One guard nodded. He refused food. He refused shelter. He hasn't even asked to enter. Raiden studied the lone wolf. Has he spoken? Only once. What did he say? The guard hesitated. He asked whether Claire was safe. Raiden frowned. Nothing else? The guard shook his head. Nothing. Inside the Hall of Flames, the Dragon Lord stood before the council. Lord Varos wasted no time. This is our opportunity. The Dragon Lord looked at him. For what? To end this. Varos pointed toward the eastern wall. The future Alpha has entered our territory. He stands outside our gates. Close enough. Several elders exchanged uncertain glances. Varos continued. Take him prisoner. Captain Raiden's head snapped toward him. On what grounds? He belongs to a kingdom preparing for war. We don't know that. We know enough. The Dragon Lord remained silent. Varos pressed further. Imagine the advantage. We would possess Silvercrest's heir. We could negotiate from a position of strength. No. The answer came calmly. Firmly. Without hesitation. Varos's jaw tightened. He rejected the woman under your protection. Yes. He exiled her. Yes. He deserves punishment. The Dragon Lord's golden eyes met his. Punishment and justice are not the same. The chamber fell silent. Varos slowly folded his arms. You disappoint me. The Dragon Lord's expression never changed. I suspect the feeling is mutual. Master Arinder found Claire in the royal library. She sat near one of the tall windows, an unopened book resting in her lap. I thought you might be here. I needed somewhere quiet. The old scholar sat opposite her. You've been avoiding your thoughts. She laughed softly. Is that possible? No. He smiled kindly. They always catch up. She stared at the book. I don't know what he wants. I imagine forgiveness. Can people like him truly change? Master Arinder leaned back. That depends. On what? Whether they regret the consequences. He paused. Or the choices. Claire slowly looked up. There's a difference. There is. If Ryan regrets losing you. He gently tapped the unopened book. That is selfish. And if he regrets hurting me? Then he has taken the first step. The first? The journey is much longer. Far beneath the palace. Mira searched every corner of her prison. She had spent 2 days examining the stone walls, counting footsteps, listening for changing guards. There was only one entrance. One guard. One chance. The iron door creaked open. A young dragon soldier entered carrying fresh bread and water. He couldn't have been older than 20. You should eat. Mira accepted the tray. Thank you. The guard nodded politely. He turned to leave. What is your name? He hesitated. Taryn. You've been kind to me. He looked uncomfortable. You aren't a prisoner. No? No. Our orders are to keep you safe. Mira's heart sank. So that's what they told you. He frowned. What do you mean? Did they also tell you your lord murdered my friend? The young guard froze. My lord Varos would never lie? She looked into his eyes. Or would never let innocent people die? Terran said nothing. Mira noticed the uncertainty forming on his face. A seed of doubt. It was enough. Near noon, the Dragon Lord finally walked to the eastern gates. The massive doors remained closed. He climbed the wall alone. Ryan looked up as he appeared above the battlements. Neither spoke immediately. Rain continued falling between them. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. I came alone. I can see that. I don't want war. Neither do I. Ryan lowered his gaze. I was wrong. The Dragon Lord remained silent. I treated Claire as though she had no worth. Silence. I rejected the moon goddess. Silence. I destroyed the only person who never betrayed me. Still. Silence. Ryan finally looked up. Say something. The Dragon Lord's voice was calm. What would you like me to say? That you believe me. I do. Ryan blinked. You do? I believe you regret your actions. Hope flickered briefly across Ryan's face. It disappeared with the Dragon Lord's next sentence. I simply don't believe regret entitles you to forgiveness. The word struck harder than any weapon. Ryan lowered his head. I know. The Dragon Lord studied him carefully. You've come seeking peace. I have. For Claire? For everyone. The Dragon Lord's gaze hardened. No. Ryan frowned. What? You came for yourself first. You seek relief from your guilt. Ryan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because it was true. The Dragon Lord descended the stairs and walked through the now opening gate. Captain Raiden looked surprised. My lord. Remain here. The Dragon Lord crossed the final distance until only a few feet separated him from Ryan. The future Alpha instinctively straightened. The Dragon Lord was taller. Broader. There was no arrogance in his posture. Only quiet authority. You wish to see Claire? I do. Tell me why. Ryan answered without hesitation. To apologize. Why? Because I hurt her. Why? Ryan frowned. I just told you. The Dragon Lord took one slow step closer. No. His voice remained even. You told me what you did. Another step. I asked why. Ryan searched for an answer. Nothing sounded right. The Dragon Lord continued. When she begged you not to reject her. His golden eyes never left Ryan's. Did you listen? Ryan closed his eyes. No. When she cried before your entire pack. No. When you banished her into the Ashlands. His voice remained controlled. Did you once ask whether she would survive? Ryan's breathing became uneven. No. The Dragon Lord nodded. I know. Then, for the first time since they had met. His composure cracked. Golden flames burst across the ground. The rain evaporated before touching them. The sky itself seemed to tremble. Captain Raiden immediately ordered every guard back. No one dared interfere. The Dragon Lord's power filled the valley. His voice, though still calm, carried a force that shook the ancient walls. She crossed a land that should have killed her. Flames spiraled around him. She arrived here starving. Another burst of fire. Wounded. The air grew hotter. Alone. Ryan could barely meet his gaze. And despite everything. The Dragon Lord's voice softened. She still found kindness in her heart. The flame slowly disappeared. The valley fell silent once more. The Dragon Lord looked at Ryan one final time. If Claire chooses to forgive you. He stepped aside. I will never stand in her way. Hope flickered once more. But hear me carefully, Alpha. Ryan looked up. Forgiveness. The Dragon Lord's eyes burned brighter than the dying flames. Does not mean she belongs to you again. A deep roar suddenly echoed from the mountains. Not one dragon. Dozens. Captain Raiden looked toward the northern cliffs. His face drained of color. My lord. The Dragon Lord turned. What is it? The northern watchtower. Raiden pointed toward a thick column of black smoke rising into the sky. Has fallen. Then another horn sounded. And another. Within seconds, the entire dragon citadel was ringing its war bells. Someone had merely attacked again. This time, they had invaded. The first war bell had barely stopped ringing before a second answered it. Then a third. The solemn notes rolled across the mountains surrounding Draconis, startling flocks of birds into the sky. Dragons abandoned their perches and launched into the air, their mighty wings beating in unison as they headed toward the northern frontier. Smoke continued to rise beyond the distant peaks. Captain Raiden mounted his bronze dragon in one fluid motion. My lord, the northern garrison is requesting immediate reinforcements. The Dragon Lord didn't take his eyes off the horizon. Send the third and fifth wings. They're already airborne. The seventh wing will guard the citadel. Raiden hesitated. The seventh wing was assigned to escort Lady Claire. It still is. The captain nodded. Understood. With a thunderous flap of wings, his dragon climbed into the clouds. The Dragon Lord turned to Ryan. You should leave. Ryan remained where he stood. Not until I know she is safe. You've seen enough to know she is. I need to hear it from her. You need many things. The Dragon Lord's voice was calm again, the fury from moments before carefully buried beneath years of discipline. But this isn't the day you'll receive them. A horn sounded again. Closer this time. The Dragon Lord looked toward the gate guards. Escort the Alpha beyond our borders. Ryan didn't resist. Not because he had given up. Because he realized something painful. He no longer had the right to demand anything. As he was led away, he looked back at the towering gates one final time. I'll return. The Dragon Lord answered without turning around. I know. Inside the citadel, the atmosphere had transformed. Gone were the cheerful markets and bustling courtyards. Every street had become a military route. Blacksmiths worked without pause, repairing armor and forging weapons. Dragon hatchlings were escorted into secure caverns beneath the mountain. Families embraced loved ones before they departed for the walls. Claire watched from a palace balcony. Her heart felt heavy. She had lived through fear before. But this was different. An entire kingdom was preparing for war. Alara joined her quietly. You've never seen dragons mobilize. Claire shook her head. It happens very rarely. Does everyone fight? Everyone helps. Claire watched elderly women carrying baskets of bandages while children delivered water to soldiers hurrying through the courtyards. No one complained. No one panicked. They simply did what needed to be done. She remembered Silvercrest. There, power had always flowed downward. The strongest commanded. The weakest obeyed. Draconis felt different. Every person mattered. Every role carried honor. You admire them. Claire smiled softly. I admire how they stand together. Far away, Ryan rode in silence. The dragon citadel disappeared behind him as the mountain roads descended toward wolf territory. His escort had stopped at the border, allowing him to continue alone. His horse slowed near an abandoned watchtower overlooking the valley. Ryan dismounted. His body still ached from the broken mate bond. But for the first time, the pain in his chest wasn't the strongest thing he felt. Regret was. Footsteps echoed behind him. He didn't turn. You followed me. Elder Rowan stepped from the trees. I expected to find you here. Ryan managed a tired smile. You always know where I go. The old priest leaned against the crumbling stone wall. Did you see her? I didn't. But I saw the man protecting her. And? Ryan looked toward the mountains. I understand now. What? Why she stayed. Elder Rowan nodded. Tell me. Ryan's voice was barely above a whisper. When I stood before the Dragon Lord. He swallowed hard. I realized something. The way he spoke about her. He never called her weak. He never called her an omega. He never spoke about what she could do for him. Ryan lowered his head. He only cared whether she was safe. The old priest closed his eyes. That is how love should sound. Ryan's shoulders sagged. I never loved her. The words hurt to admit. I loved the version of myself that power created. And now? I don't even recognize that man anymore. Meanwhile, inside the Hall of Flames, the Dragon Lord studied a large map spread across the council table. Pins marked every recent attack. The pattern troubled him. Captain Raiden returned. Our scouts have confirmed 3 more raids. Casualties? Minimal. The Dragon Lord frowned. They're not trying to conquer territory. No. They're testing us. Master Arinder slowly approached. They're forcing us to divide our forces. The Dragon Lord nodded. Exactly. Lord Varos, who had remained unusually quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke. Perhaps they're searching. Every eye turned toward him. Searching for what? Varos looked directly at Claire, who had entered moments earlier. For her. The room became still. Captain Raiden immediately objected. How could anyone know she is here? Varos smiled faintly. The same way the wolves found us. The Dragon Lord's expression hardened. Explain. I'm merely stating possibilities. No. The Dragon Lord stepped closer. You're implying someone leaked information. Varos shrugged. Would it surprise you? The question lingered. No one answered. Because after Ronan's murder, nothing seemed impossible anymore. That evening, Claire wandered into the palace archives. She needed silence. She needed answers. Instead, she found something unexpected. A mural hidden beneath layers of dust. It stretched across an entire stone wall. One side depicted wolves. The other, dragons. Standing together beneath a crimson moon. At the center stood a woman. She wasn't wearing armor. She wasn't carrying a weapon. She simply held the hands of both leaders. Master Arinder entered quietly behind her. I wondered when you'd find it. Claire didn't take her eyes off the mural. Who is she? The first Flame Queen. Aurelia? He nodded. They painted her after the Treaty of Ashen Peaks. Claire stepped closer. The wolves trusted her. So did the dragons. How? She never ruled through fear. Master Arinder gently brushed centuries of dust from the mural. She reminded both kingdoms that strength isn't measured by who kneels before you. His voice softened. It's measured by who chooses to stand beside you. Claire stared at the Queen's face. There was something strangely familiar about her expression. Not because they looked alike. Because the kindness in Aurelia's eyes reminded her of the person she wanted to become. Not an alpha. Not a queen. Someone worthy of trust. Before she could say another word, a deep, resonant horn echoed from the palace entrance. One blast. Then another. Captain Raiden burst into the archives. My lord. The Dragon Lord appeared almost immediately. What happened? The delegates have arrived. What delegates? Raiden looked toward Claire. Representatives from 6 neighboring wolf packs. Silence fell over the room. They requested an emergency audience. The Dragon Lord frowned. About the attacks? Raiden shook his head. No. He unfolded a sealed scroll bearing the crests of the 6 packs. It appears. His expression grew increasingly grave as he read the final lines. They've all come to claim Lady Claire. Claire stared at him in disbelief. Claim me? Raiden nodded. They say that if the prophecy is true. He lowered the scroll. The woman carrying the blood of the first flame doesn't belong to Draconis alone. Outside, another procession was already climbing the mountain road. Word of Claire's existence had spread beyond Silvercrest. Now, 2 kingdoms and perhaps many more were beginning to see her not as a person, but as the key to the future. And that made her the most valuable and most vulnerable woman in the world. The Hall of Flames had never hosted so many strangers. Representatives from 6 neighboring wolf packs stood in 2 orderly rows beneath the towering obsidian pillars. Each delegation carried its own banner, its own colors, and its own pride, yet every pair of eyes was fixed on the same person. Claire. She stood beside the Dragon Lord, still struggling to understand why she had suddenly become the center of every kingdom's attention. Captain Raiden announced the visitors one by one. The White Fan Pack. The Frostclaw Pack. The Moonshadow Pack. The Black Ridge Pack. The Stormhell Pack. The Ironwood Pack. The Dragon Lord remained seated upon the ancient throne carved from black volcanic stone. Unlike the Alpha S throne in Silvercrest, it lacked jewels or gold. It was plain, almost austere, yet its simplicity somehow made it more imposing. When the introductions ended, the Dragon Lord spoke. "You have crossed our borders under the banner of peace." His voice echoed throughout the chamber. "You may now state your purpose." The eldest among the visitors stepped forward. He introduced himself as Alpha Cedric of Frostclaw. "My lord, we thank you for granting us audience. You've traveled far." "We have." "And?" Cedric glanced briefly toward Claire before meeting the Dragon Lord's gaze once more. "Rumors travel faster than dragons." A faint smile touched the Dragon Lord's lips. "They usually do. We have learned that the woman standing beside you carries the blood of the first flame." Silence followed. No one denied it. Cedric continued. "If the ancient prophecies are true." He inhaled deeply. "Then her existence concerns every wolf alive." Several delegates nodded in agreement. "We have not come to threaten Dracones. We have come to protect our future." The Dragon Lord leaned back. "And how do you intend to do that?" Cedric answered without hesitation. "By asking Lady Claire to unite the wolf packs." The chamber erupted into whispers. Claire blinked in disbelief. "What?" Cedric looked directly at her. "Silvercrest rejected you." "That is true. But the other packs have not." Another alpha stepped forward. A tall woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. "I am Alpha Selene of Moonshadow." She bowed respectfully. "Our ancestors spoke of the Daughter of Flame. When she returned, the divided wolves would finally become one." Claire shook her head. "I don't even know how to lead myself." Selene smiled gently. "Neither did the greatest rulers when they began." The Dragon Lord quietly observed the exchange. Not once did he interrupt. He wanted Claire to hear every word. Every expectation. Every burden. Because leadership was never simply accepted. It was endured. After the delegates were escorted to guest quarters, the hall gradually emptied. Only the Dragon Lord, Claire, Master Arinder, Captain Raiden and Alara remained. Claire let out a slow breath. "I think everyone has lost their minds." Captain Raiden chuckled softly. "I've heard worse responses." She turned toward him. "They want me to unite 6 wolf packs." 7, Master Arinder corrected. Silvercrest would eventually follow. Claire laughed in disbelief. "Silvercrest barely tolerated my existence. They tolerated the Omega." The old scholar smiled knowingly. "They may not ignore the woman you've become." Claire sank into one of the stone benches. "I don't want a throne." Silence settled across the room. The Dragon Lord slowly descended the steps leading from his throne. Neither hurried nor hesitant, his movements reflected the quiet confidence of someone who had carried responsibility for centuries. He stopped before her. "Few worthy rulers ever do." She looked up. "Didn't you want yours?" A shadow crossed his face. "No." "You didn't he?" "I inherited it." He glanced toward the empty throne. "The day I became king." His voice grew quieter. "I buried my father." The room fell silent. Even Master Arinder lowered his eyes. The Dragon Lord continued. "I was younger than you are now. I believed strength meant never showing fear." "Did it?" He smiled faintly. "I learned otherwise." He looked toward the ancient throne. "Every throne demands payment." Claire frowned. "What kind of payment?" "The people see the crown." He shook his head. "They never see the cost." That evening, the Dragon Lord invited Claire to walk beyond the palace walls. The royal guards followed at a respectful distance while the two walked along a narrow stone path overlooking the Valley of Embers. Below them, dragons soared between waterfalls cascading from the mountains. The setting sun painted the cliffs in gold and crimson. "It's beautiful," Claire whispered. "It is. You come here often?" "When I need reminding." "Of what?" He looked across the valley. "That kingdoms existed before me. And they'll exist after me." Claire smiled. "You really don't think like a king." "I try not to." They continued walking. After several minutes, they reached a weathered monument standing alone at the edge of the cliff. Unlike the grand statues inside the palace, this one had no name carved into it. Only a single sentence. "For those who chose duty over desire." Claire studied the inscription. "What is this place?" The dragon lord rested his hand against the stone. "A memorial." "To whom?" "My family." She looked at him in surprise. "I thought the royal tombs were inside the palace." "They are. This," he smiled sadly, "is for the lives we never lived." She didn't understand. Seeing her confusion, he continued. "My father loved music. He wished to become a composer. My grandmother dreamed of sailing beyond the eastern seas. My older brother wanted to build bridges instead of ruling." Claire listened quietly. They became kings instead. The realization slowly settled over her. The throne took their dreams. It required them. He turned to face her. "That is the true price of a crown." She looked back toward the palace standing proudly atop the mountain. "It isn't power. No. It is sacrifice." Meanwhile, deep within the western tower, Lord Varos received an unexpected visitor. The hooded spy removed his cloak. "My lord." "What news?" "The neighboring packs have all pledged support." Varos nodded. "As expected. They're beginning to see Claire as a symbol." "Good." The spy hesitated. "There is something else." Varos looked up. "The woman called Mira." "What about her?" "She escaped." For the first time in many years, genuine surprise crossed Varos's face. "How?" "We don't know." The spy swallowed nervously. "The guard assigned to her cell has disappeared as well." Varos's expression darkened. Terran. The young soldier had chosen his conscience over his orders. An unforgivable mistake. "Find them." We've searched the western tunnels. "Then search beyond the mountains. They cannot be allowed to reach either kingdom." The spy bowed deeply before disappearing into the shadows. Varos walked toward the tower window. His carefully crafted plan was beginning to fracture. If Mira reached Silvercrest, she could expose everything. And if she reached the Dragon Lord, years of deception would collapse overnight. Night settled over Draconis. Claire stood alone on the balcony outside her chamber, unable to stop thinking about the Dragon Lord's words. A throne isn't power. It's sacrifice. She finally understood why he never sought admiration. He had already paid too much for it. Behind her, a soft breeze stirred the curtains. She turned. No one was there. Then she noticed it. A folded piece of parchment resting on the stone floor just inside her room. She frowned. She was certain it hadn't been there earlier. Picking it up carefully, she unfolded it. There were only 6 words written in hurried ink. "Trust no one inside the palace." Before she could react, she noticed something else. The wax seal pressed into the corner of the parchment. It wasn't the crest of Draconis. It wasn't the mark of any wolf pack. It was the symbol of a black serpent wrapped around a broken crown. Master Arender had once mentioned that emblem only once. It belonged to an organization believed to have vanished nearly 500 years ago. The Order of the Fallen Flame. And if they had returned, the coming war was far greater than wolves against dragons. The parchment trembled in Clara's hand. She read the message again. Trust no one inside the palace. The words were simple. Too simple. Yet they carried a weight that settled heavily in her chest. She turned the parchment over. Nothing. No signature. No explanation. Only the strange wax seal, a black serpent coiled around a broken crown. A knock came at her door. Instinctively, she hid the parchment inside the sleeve of her dress. "Come in." The Dragon Lord entered. His sharp golden eyes immediately settled on her face. "You look troubled." She forced a small smile. "I've had many reasons lately." He studied her for a moment. Years of ruling had taught him to recognize when someone was withholding the truth. "You found something?" It wasn't a question. Claire hesitated. The warning echoed in her mind. Trust no one inside the palace. Did that include him? The thought disappeared almost as quickly as it came. No. If there was one person she trusted in Draconis, it was him. She removed the folded parchment and handed it over. "I found this in my room." The Dragon Lord carefully unfolded it. His expression remained calm until his eyes reached the seal. Then, for the first time in days, his composure faltered. "Where did you get this?" "It was on my floor." "Did anyone see it?" "No." He looked toward the balcony doors. "They're becoming bold. You know this symbol?" "I hoped I would never see it again." Before Claire could ask another question, he folded the parchment and slipped it into his cloak. "We're leaving." "Now?" "Now." A short while later, they descended deep beneath the palace. Claire had never realized how vast the citadel truly was. Hidden staircases wound through the mountain, illuminated by blue crystals embedded in the walls. The deeper they walked, the colder the air became. Finally, they reached a pair of enormous bronze doors. The Dragon Lord placed his hand upon the center. Ancient runes glowed. The door slowly opened. Inside lay a circular chamber unlike anything Claire had ever seen. Thousands of books surrounded them. Ancient weapons rested within crystal displays. Paintings lined the walls. Maps stretched across massive oak tables. At the center stood a stone pedestal supporting a weathered crown. Not gold. Not silver. It was forged from black metal streaked with crimson veins. "What is this place?" "The Hall of Kings. No one enters here without my permission." Claire slowly walked forward. "It feels..." She searched for the right word. "Alive. It remembers." He stopped before the black crown. This belonged to the first Dragon King. She looked at it carefully. "It doesn't look valuable." He smiled faintly. "It isn't. Then why keep it?" "To remind every ruler who comes after." His fingers brushed the edge of the ancient crown. "Power begins with sacrifice." Meanwhile, Lord Varro stood within an abandoned watchtower beyond the palace walls. Moonlight filtered through the broken roof. Several hooded figures emerged from the darkness. Each wore the same serpent emblem. Their leader lowered his hood. Unlike the others, his face was marked by a long scar running from temple to jaw. "You summoned us." Varos nodded. "The girl knows more than she should." "Then kill her." "No." Varos shook his head. "Not yet." The scarred man frowned. "You've changed your mind?" "I've changed my strategy." He walked toward the shattered window. "Dead." He smiled coldly. "She becomes a martyr." "Alive." He turned back. "She becomes a weapon." The hooded figures exchanged glances. "You still believe she is the heir?" Varos remained silent. Finally, he answered. "I know she is." "Then why oppose her?" The old Dragon Lord's eyes darkened. "Because I watched one prophecy destroy the world. I refuse to watch another." The scarred man laughed quietly. "You still believe you're saving everyone?" "I am." "No." The man's smile widened. "You're saving yourself." For a heartbeat, genuine anger flashed across Varos's face. Then it vanished. "Prepare the next phase." "What about the wolves?" "They're already moving." Far from Draconis, Silvercrest was anything but peaceful. Ryan stood before the gathered alphas of the neighboring packs. The same leaders who had traveled to the Dragon Citadel only a day earlier. Alpha Cedric rose first. "We've returned from Draconis." Ryan nodded. "I expected as much." The Dragon Lord refused to surrender Claire. "I never expected him to." Cedric narrowed his eyes. "You've changed." Ryan almost laughed. "So I've been told." Another alpha stepped forward. Alpha Celine. The question now is simple. She looked directly at him. Will Silvercrest stand with Draconis? Or against it? Every eye in the hall turned toward Ryan. Only weeks ago, his answer would have been immediate. Now. He remembered the Dragon Lord standing in the rain. He remembered the respect in his voice whenever he spoke Claire's name. He remembered the shame he had felt. Finally, Ryan answered. I want to wage war against the people who saved the woman I failed. Silence followed. Alpha Garrick slowly stood. You realize what you're saying? I do. If the dragons truly murdered Ronan. They didn't. The certainty in Ryan's voice surprised everyone. How can you be so sure? Because someone wants us to hate each other. He looked around the room. And I refuse to become their weapon. Elder Rowan smiled quietly. For the first time in many years. The future Alpha had chosen wisdom over pride. Back in Draconis. Claire remained inside the Hall of Kings while the Dragon Lord searched through a collection of ancient scrolls. There. He carefully removed one bound in crimson leather. This is what I was looking for. He unrolled it across the stone table. The parchment depicted the royal bloodlines of dragons and wolves stretching back nearly 2,000 years. Claire traced the intricate branches with her finger. So many names. The Dragon Lord pointed near the center. Here. Queen Aurelia. Beside her was another name. King Alaric. Below them. A single line descended toward a name that had been scratched away. Someone had deliberately erased it. Claire frowned. Why remove it? Because someone wanted history forgotten. He gently brushed away centuries of dust. As he did, faint golden letters slowly appeared beneath the damaged parchment. Not erased. Hidden. Claire leaned closer. The hidden name became clearer. Then both of them froze. Beneath the royal seal appeared two words. Twin heirs. The Dragon Lord's eyes widened. Impossible. What? He looked at Claire. Aurelia didn't have one child. She had two. Before either of them could process the discovery, a deafening explosion shook the mountain. The entire Hall of Kings trembled violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. A second explosion followed. Then came the unmistakable sound of screaming. Captain Ryden's voice echoed through the corridors. My lord. The Dragon Lord immediately rolled the scroll shut. What happened? Ryden appeared in the doorway, blood running down one side of his face. The western wall. He struggled to catch his breath. Has been breached. Claire's heart skipped. By wolves? Ryden looked horrified. No. He turned toward the Dragon Lord. They came from underneath the mountain. Silence fell. The Dragon Lord slowly reached for the sword hanging at his side. Only one group knew of the ancient tunnels beneath the citadel. The Order of the Fallen Flame. They weren't hiding anymore. They had brought the war to the heart of Draconis. The blast shook the Hall of Kings for a third time. Ancient dust cascaded from the vaulted ceiling as cracks snaked across the stone floor. Shelves groaned beneath the force of the explosion, and several centuries-old scrolls tumbled onto the ground. Captain Ryden steadied himself against the doorway. My lord, they're inside the lower city. The Dragon Lord's expression hardened. How many? We don't know. They're wearing no kingdom's colors. Have they reached the palace? Not yet. The Dragon Lord turned to Claire. You'll remain here. She immediately shook her head. I'm done hiding. This isn't a debate. They came because of me. They came because of what you represent. Which is exactly why I should stand beside you. For a brief moment, neither spoke. Captain Ryden glanced between them, wisely remaining silent. The Dragon Lord finally sighed. You've become very difficult to command. A faint smile touched Claire's lips. I learned from the best. Despite the danger, the corner of his mouth lifted almost imperceptibly. You stay beside me. I promise. If I tell you to run, I'll argue first. Claire. Then I'll run. Satisfied, though only barely, he nodded. Stay close. The palace corridors had transformed into a battlefield. Dragon guards clashed with masked invaders whose black armor bore the emblem of the broken crown wrapped by a serpent. The Order of the Fallen Flame. Their warriors moved with frightening precision. They weren't trying to occupy the palace. They were searching for something. Or someone. Steel rang against steel. Captain Raiden led the first defensive line, his sword cutting through the attackers with practiced efficiency. Protect the inner halls. The guards answered with a unified roar. Several dragons perched upon the palace rooftops unleashed streams of golden fire toward the advancing enemies. The flames forced the invaders backward. But only briefly. The attackers produced strange black shields that absorbed much of the dragon fire before shattering. The Dragon Lord frowned. Shadow iron. They've forged armor from it. Master Arender's face turned pale. That should be impossible. So should many things we've witnessed recently. Far beneath the palace. Lord Varos walked calmly through the ancient tunnels. Unlike the masked soldiers surrounding him, he carried no weapon. He didn't need one. He stopped before an enormous stone gate covered in faded runes. One of the Order's commanders approached. The palace has engaged the defenders. Good. The Dragon Lord himself has entered the battle. Better. The commander looked uncertain. Our losses are increasing. They're expected. You said this would be simple. Varos turned slowly. I said nothing of the sort. His amber eyes settled upon the sealed gate. We're not here to win today. We're here to open history. He placed his hand against the stone. The ancient runes remained dark. It still refuses me. The commander frowned. Then how do we open it? Varos smiled coldly. We don't. He looked upward toward the palace above. She does. In the upper city, Claire ran beside the Dragon Lord through smoke-filled corridors. She had never imagined a battle would sound like this. The roar of dragons. The clash of steel. The cries of the wounded. Everything blended into one overwhelming storm. An explosion rocked the eastern wing. The ceiling partially collapsed. A frightened servant stumbled from the smoke carrying a little girl no older than 6. Behind them, 3 masked soldiers emerged. Without thinking, Claire sprinted forward. The Dragon Lord reached for her. Claire. Too late. She stepped directly between the child and the attackers. The first soldier swung his sword. Claire instinctively raised her arm. The crimson mark on her wrist ignited. A brilliant wall of golden fire erupted between them. The masked soldiers were hurled backward by an invisible force. The flames never touched the child. They simply surrounded her like a protective shield. Everyone froze. Even the attackers. The little girl stared up at Claire with wide eyes. Are you an angel? Claire blinked. I don't think so. The Dragon Lord arrived beside her. His own astonishment was carefully hidden, but not completely. You've never done that before. I didn't mean to. Master Arender caught up moments later. His breathing became uneven. The first flame. He whispered almost reverently. It protects life before it destroys death. Outside the northern walls, a lone rider galloped toward Draconis with desperate urgency. Mira. Her horse was exhausted. Its flanks glistened with sweat after days of relentless travel. Behind her rode Terran. The young dragon guard had chosen to abandon everything he knew to reveal the truth. We're almost there, he shouted. Mira looked toward the distant citadel. Smoke already rose above its towers. We're too late. No. She urged her horse faster. We're late. But not too late. Meanwhile, in Silvercrest, Ryan stood upon the highest watchtower when a scout arrived. Alpha. Ryan turned. What happened? The dragon citadel is under attack. His blood ran cold. By wolves? No. Then who? We couldn't tell. The mountains are burning. Another scout interrupted before the first could continue. Neighboring packs are already marching. To help? The young wolf hesitated. Some. And the others? They believe this is the perfect opportunity to claim Claire. Ryan closed his eyes. So it begins. Elder Rowan appeared beside him. You know what you must do. Ryan nodded. I do. He looked toward the gathered Silvercrest warriors. Prepare every rider. One warrior stepped forward. Are we going to war? Ryan answered without hesitation. No. He drew his sword. We're going to stop one. Inside the palace, the battle intensified. Captain Raiden forced another wave of attackers back, but more continued pouring through hidden tunnels beneath the citadel. They're endless. They're desperate, the Dragon Lord corrected. That makes them dangerous. Suddenly, every masked soldier stopped fighting. Simultaneously. The sudden silence felt unnatural. Then, one by one, they stepped aside, creating a clear path through the ruined corridor. Heavy footsteps echoed from the smoke. Lord Varos emerged alone. His elegant robes remained untouched despite the battle raging around him. He looked almost disappointed. I expected more resistance. The Dragon Lord slowly raised his sword. So this was you. Varos inclined his head. I warned you. You murdered Ronan. I sacrificed one life. You kidnapped Mira. I protected a witness. You attacked your own kingdom. Varos's voice remained calm. I saved it. Claire stepped forward. By murdering innocent people? Varos looked at her for the first time. His expression softened. Almost sadly. You truly don't understand who you are. I know enough. No. He shook his head. You know only half. His gaze shifted toward the Dragon Lord. You finally found one heir. Silence settled over the corridor. Then Varos smiled. But not the other. The Dragon Lord's grip tightened around his sword. What are you talking about? Varos spread his arms. You've spent centuries protecting the wrong child. Claire's heart pounded. The scroll. Varos laughed quietly. You found it. So tell me. His eyes gleamed with dangerous satisfaction. Which twin do you think survived? Before anyone could react, the floor beneath them trembled violently. A deep rumble echoed from beneath the palace. Then came the sound. Not of stone breaking. Not of an explosion. A roar. Ancient. Powerful. So immense that every dragon in the sky suddenly stopped flying. Every wolf across the mountains instinctively lifted its head. Even the Dragon Lord's face lost its calm composure. Master Arinder whispered the impossible. The moon dragon. His voice trembled. Has awakened. And somewhere beneath the mountain, something that had slept for 500 years opened its eyes. The roar did not end. It rolled through the mountain like the voice of the earth itself, shaking every stone in the dragon citadel. Towers trembled. Windows shattered. The flames burning throughout the palace flickered wildly before bowing toward the mountain's heart, as though acknowledging an ancient master. Every dragon in the sky froze. Their wings stopped beating. One after another, they descended to the ground. Not because they had been ordered. Because instinct demanded it. Across the valley, dragons lowered their heads toward the mountain. Within the palace, every dragon guard instinctively dropped to one knee. Captain Raiden stared upward in disbelief. It can't be. Master Arinder's weathered face had turned pale. I've waited my entire life to hear that sound. The Dragon Lord never took his eyes off the shattered corridor leading beneath the palace. I prayed I never would. Lord Varos smiled. There it is. The satisfaction in his voice was unmistakable. The final seal has weakened. The Dragon Lord pointed his sword directly at him. What have you done? I merely hastened the inevitable. You've awakened something the world buried for a reason. I've awakened the truth. Golden flames ignited around the Dragon Lord's blade. If another innocent dies because of your ambition. Varos interrupted him. You still believe this is about ambition? His laughter echoed strangely through the ruined corridor. It never was. Without warning, he raised his hand. The masked warriors surrounding him scattered in every direction. Not retreating. Running. Toward the depths beneath the palace. Captain Raiden shouted immediately. They're heading for the lower sanctum. The Dragon Lord's eyes narrowed. They're after the heart chamber. Varos looked back one last time. Come if you wish. His smile widened. The answers you've spent 5 centuries searching for are waiting below. Then he disappeared into the smoke. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The Dragon Lord turned sharply. Raiden. My lord. Take half the guard and secure the upper palace. What about the civilians? Evacuate them to the eastern caverns. Yes, my lord. Master Arinder. The old scholar straightened. You'll remain with Claire. No. Claire stepped forward. I'm going with you. The Dragon Lord's expression became firm. It's too dangerous. So was the Ashlands. You didn't choose that. I'm choosing this. She looked directly into his eyes. If Varos is right. She hesitated. Then this has always been about me. Silence settled between them. Master Arinder watched carefully. The Dragon Lord wasn't deciding whether Claire was capable. He already knew she was. He was deciding whether he could bear the risk of losing her. Finally, he exhaled. You stay beside me. I will. You don't leave my sight. I promise. Captain Raiden smiled despite the chaos. She's becoming impossible to argue with. The Dragon Lord answered without looking away from Claire. I noticed. The descent into the lower sanctum felt unlike any place Claire had ever seen. The stairway spiraled deep into the mountain, each step carved from obsidian polished by countless generations. Ancient murals lined the walls. Some depicted dragons soaring above cities of crystal. Others showed wolves standing beside them beneath silver moons. But the final murals were different. They showed fire. War. Cities consumed by flames. A woman wearing a crown stood between 2 armies, her hands raised toward the sky. Behind her, a colossal dragon covered in silver scales. Claire stopped walking. I've seen this dragon before. Master Arinder looked at the mural. The moon dragon. It was in my vision. The Dragon Lord glanced toward her. You never told me. I didn't understand what I saw. He studied the painting for a long moment. Neither did anyone else. The deeper they traveled, the warmer the air became. The walls themselves seemed to glow faintly, as the molten fire flowed beneath the stone. Eventually, the stairway opened into a cavern so enormous that Claire couldn't see the ceiling. Crystal formations reflected rivers of lava flowing through natural channels below. At the center of the cavern stood a circular platform surrounded by 12 towering pillars. Each pillar bore the crest of an ancient kingdom. Some represented dragons. Others wolves. Several had been shattered long ago. Lord Varos was already there. So were dozens of masked warriors. And before them, an enormous stone door. Unlike every door Claire had seen in the citadel, this one wasn't locked with metal. It was sealed by light. Golden flames moved across its surface like living rivers. Varos smiled as they approached. Welcome. The Dragon Lord stepped forward. This ends today. I agree. Varos gestured toward the glowing door. Open it. The Dragon Lord's voice turned cold. I want tea. You can't. Silence. Varos looked toward Claire. But she can. Every eye shifted to her. I don't know what you're talking about. You do. I don't. Varos's smile faded. The seal recognizes only the blood of Aurelia. Claire instinctively looked toward the glowing door. Something inside her stirred. Not fear. Recognition. The warmth beneath her skin intensified. The crimson mark on her wrist began glowing once more. No. The Dragon Lord stepped between her and the door. She doesn't go near it. Varos sighed. You've always been predictable. Without warning, 3 masked assassins lunged from the shadows. Their target wasn't the Dragon Lord. It wasn't Captain Raiden. It was Claire. Steel flashed through the air. The Dragon Lord moved instantly. His sword intercepted the first assassin. Captain Raiden tackled the second. The third slipped past them both. Claire barely had time to react. The assassin's blade was only inches away when a wall of golden fire erupted around her. Not from her hands. From the ground itself. The flame shot upward in a perfect circle, swallowing the assassin without touching a single ally. When the fire disappeared, Nothing remained. Not even ash. The entire cavern fell silent. Claire stared at her trembling hands. She hadn't done anything. She hadn't even thought about using magic. Master Arender's voice shook. The first flame. It has accepted her. Then something extraordinary happened. The enormous stone door responded. The golden flame sealing its surface began flowing toward Claire. Not attacking. Welcoming. The symbols carved into the stone illuminated one after another. Ancient words echoed through the cavern in a language no one had spoken for centuries. Yet, Claire understood every syllable. The blood remembers. The Dragon Lord looked at her in astonishment. You understand it? She nodded slowly. I don't know how. But I do. The door trembled. A narrow crack appeared down its center. Warm light spilled into the cavern. Lord Varos took an eager step forward. At last. The Dragon Lord immediately blocked his path. You'll go no farther. Varos's calm expression finally disappeared. Move. No. You don't know what's behind that door. I know enough. No. Varos's voice rose for the first time. You know the lie. Golden flames erupted around the Dragon Lord. I've carried this kingdom for 500 years. And I have spent those same 500 years trying to save it. The two ancient rulers stared at one another. Neither willing to yield. Neither believing himself the villain. Then, the door opened. Not fully. Just enough. A brilliant column of silver fire erupted into the cavern. It swept harmlessly around Claire before rising toward the ceiling. Every dragon present immediately bowed. Captain Raiden fell to one knee. Master Arender followed. Even the Dragon Lord slowly lowered his head. Claire looked around in confusion. What are you doing? No one answered. The silver fire condensed before her. Slowly. It took the shape of a woman. Elegant. Radiant. Wearing a crown of living flame. Queen Aurelia. Unlike the memory Claire had encountered in the garden, this presence felt real. Powerful. Ancient. Alive. The queen smiled with unmistakable warmth. My child. Tears filled Claire's eyes. I've waited so long to meet you. Aurelia reached out, gently cupping Claire's cheek. You've walked through rejection without surrender. You've carried kindness through suffering. You've chosen mercy when vengeance was easier. Her smile deepened. And because of that, the queen turned toward everyone gathered within the sanctum. Her voice echoed like music through the mountain. I present to you. Silver flames surrounded Claire, lifting her hair as her crimson mark transformed into a brilliant emblem of intertwined moonlight and fire. The queen chosen not by blood alone. The flames grew brighter. But by fire. Before anyone could recover from the declaration, the mountain shook with unprecedented force. A deafening crack echoed through the sanctum. The ancient seal had not merely opened. It had broken. From the darkness beyond the doorway, two immense golden eyes slowly opened. They were not the eyes of the moon dragon. They belonged to something far older. Something Queen Aurelia herself had sealed away. And as the creature took its first breath in 5 centuries, even the queen's radiant smile disappeared. The creature breathed. It was neither a roar nor a growl. It was a slow, measured exhale that carried enough power to extinguish every torch in the sanctum. Darkness swallowed the chamber. For one endless heartbeat, no one moved. Then silver fire erupted from Queen Aurelia's spirit, illuminating the cavern once more. The light revealed only a pair of immense golden eyes staring from beyond the broken seal. They did not blink. They simply watched. The mountain itself seemed to hold its breath. Captain Raiden tightened his grip on his sword. What is that? No one answered. Not even Master Arender. His lips trembled as though he were searching for words that no longer existed. The Dragon Lord stepped instinctively in front of Claire. Every instinct he possessed urged him to shield her. Queen Aurelia noticed. Even in death, the queen smiled faintly. You have always carried the weight of others before your own. The Dragon Lord did not lower his sword. I failed you once. You never failed me. I failed to protect our family. Aurelia's gentle expression softened. No. Her voice echoed through the sanctum. You protected what mattered. The Dragon Lord closed his eyes briefly. 5 centuries of buried grief rose to the surface. I should have saved you. You could not. I should have found our child. You did. He looked at Claire. Pain and hope collided within his golden eyes. Queen Aurelia followed his gaze. The moon goddess never asked you to change the past. She smiled warmly. Only to prepare the future. The golden eyes beyond the broken seal slowly disappeared into the darkness. Not retreating. Waiting. Watching. As though measuring every soul inside the sanctum. Master Arinder finally found his voice. My queen. He bowed deeply. What lies beyond the seal? Aurelia's expression became solemn. The oldest mistake ever made. Silence filled the chamber. Long before wolves and dragons became kingdoms. She slowly turned toward the darkness. There was only one realm. Images formed within the silver flame surrounding her. Mountains untouched by civilization. Dragons soaring beside wolves. Children laughing together. No borders. No wars. No one ruled. No one conquered. Until fear entered the hearts of men. The peaceful vision darkened. Fire spread across forests. Cities burned. Friends became enemies. The creature beyond the seal was never born evil. She looked toward Claire. It became what hatred created. The Dragon Lord understood. The Devourer. Aurelia nodded. It feeds upon division. Captain Raiden frowned. Then why not destroy it? Because hatred cannot be slain. Her answer echoed softly. It can only be denied. Lord Varos laughed. The sound echoed strangely through the cavern. There. He spread his arms. Now they finally know. The Dragon Lord turned sharply. You knew. I did. You opened the seal anyway. I weakened it. Varos corrected calmly. It was destined to break. You gambled with every life in both kingdoms. I refused to let them remain blind. Captain Raiden stepped forward. Enough. His sword pointed directly at Varos. You murdered innocent people. I sacrificed a few. Varos replied quietly. To save thousands. The Dragon Lord's patience finally broke. Golden fire exploded around him. The cavern shook beneath the force of his power. You speak of sacrifice. His voice thundered. Yet you have never offered your own. In an instant, he crossed the distance separating them. Steel met steel. For the first time in centuries. The Dragon Lord and Lord Varos fought. Neither resembled ordinary warriors. Their blades moved too quickly for most eyes to follow. Golden fire clashed against crimson flame. Every strike sent shockwaves through the cavern. Captain Raiden ordered the guards backward. No one interfere. Master Arinder nodded. This battle belongs to them. Varos smiled as their swords locked together. You've grown stronger. You've grown desperate. I've grown realistic. He forced the Dragon Lord backward. You still believe kindness can save kingdoms? It saved one. No. Varos drove his blade downward. It merely delayed its fall. The Dragon Lord parried and spun gracefully, sending Varos stumbling several steps. You mistake compassion for weakness. And you mistake hope for wisdom. Their weapons collided again. Flames erupted around them. The cavern trembled. While the two ancient rulers battled, Claire remained frozen. Queen Aurelia gently placed a hand upon her shoulder. You cannot watch forever. I don't know what to do. You do. I've never fought a war. No. Aurelia smiled. But you've survived one. Claire looked toward the broken seal. The golden eyes had returned. Watching. Waiting. The creature wasn't trying to escape. It was feeding. Every burst of anger between Varos and the Dragon Lord made the darkness around the seal grow denser. She remembered Aurelia's words. It feeds upon division. Her breathing slowed. It wants them to hate each other. Yes. It wants all of us to. Yes. Claire closed her eyes. Then she understood. Far outside the dragon citadel, Ryan rode harder than he ever had before. Silvercrest warriors followed close behind. Beside them marched warriors from Moonshadow, Frostclaw, and 2 other neighboring packs. Not as invaders. As allies. Smoke rose from the citadel ahead. The mountain itself appeared to tremble. One of the younger wolves looked toward Ryan. "We'll make it." Ryan didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed upon the distant palace. Would he? Or had he already arrived too late? Inside the sanctum, the duel reached its peak. The Dragon Lord disarmed Varos with a powerful strike. The elder dragon fell heavily against one of the ancient pillars. His sword clattered across the stone floor. Captain Raiden immediately surrounded him with guards. "It's over." Varos slowly looked upward. "No." His smile returned. "It has only begun." The darkness surrounding the broken seal suddenly expanded. Thick black mist poured into the sanctum. The immense golden eyes vanished. Not because the creature had retreated. Because it no longer needed to watch from within. A massive claw emerged through the opening. Stone cracked beneath its weight. The mountain groaned. Every dragon in the cavern roared simultaneously. Queen Aurelia's spirit looked toward Claire. "There is only one path left." Claire swallowed. "What must I do?" The queen reached into the silver fire surrounding her. When she withdrew her hand, she held an ancient crown. Unlike every other crown Claire had seen, this one wasn't forged. It was alive. Moonlight flowed through silver branches woven together with strands of living flame. "The crown," Claire whispered. "It has waited for you." "I don't deserve it." Aurelia smiled. "No ruler ever truly believes they do." She gently placed the crown upon Claire's head. The moment it touched her, the crimson mark on her wrist transformed completely. Silver fire and golden flame intertwined around her body. Every dragon bowed. Every guard knelt. Even the imprisoned Varos stared in stunned silence. The ancient crown had accepted its queen. At that exact moment, the doors of the sanctum burst open. Ryan rushed inside with dozens of wolf warriors behind him. He stopped so suddenly that the warriors behind nearly collided with him. His breath caught in his throat. Before him stood Claire. Not the frightened Omega he had rejected beneath the blood moon. Not the lonely girl he had abandoned in the ashlands. She stood crowned in living fire. Radiant. Confident. A queen. Ryan slowly fell to his knees. Not because anyone commanded him to. Because his heart finally understood what his pride had refused to see. Tears filled his eyes. "I was too late." Claire looked at him across the shattered sanctum. There was no hatred in her expression. No bitterness. Only quiet peace. She had already walked beyond the life he had stolen from her. And for Ryan, that realization hurt more deeply than any wound he had ever received. Before another word could be spoken, the colossal claw slammed fully into the sanctum floor. The mountain split with a deafening roar. The final battle had begun. The Dragon Lord's Luna. 3 months later. The first snowfall of winter covered the peaks of Dracones in silver. Gone were the sounds of war. Gone were the smoke-filled skies and the desperate cries that had echoed through the mountains only months before. The dragon citadel stood stronger than ever. Its shattered walls had been rebuilt. Its towers rose proudly above the clouds once again. Children laughed in the courtyards. Young dragons chased one another through the crisp morning air. For the first time in centuries, peace had returned. Not because one kingdom had defeated another, but because 2 kingdoms had finally remembered they were never meant to be enemies. The final battle had become legend. Bards across every wolf pack and dragon kingdom sang of the queen chosen by fire. They told stories of the woman who stood before the devourer without hatred in her heart. When the creature fed upon anger, she answered with mercy. When it tried to divide wolves and dragons, she united them instead. The ancient crown had awakened the full power of the first flame, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a force that purified the darkness the devourer fed upon. It had been the Dragon Lord who held the creature at bay, refusing to yield even as his own strength waned. It had been Ryan and the united wolf packs who defended the mountain passes, preventing the Order of the Fallen Flame from reaching the sanctum again. It had been Captain Raiden, Elara, Master Arinder, Mira, Terran, and countless ordinary warriors who chose courage over fear. No one won the war alone. Everyone carried part of the victory. And because they stood together, the Devourer had been sealed once more, this time by a covenant willingly forged instead of one created through sacrifice and secrecy. Lord Varro survived. Many expected the Dragon Lord to execute him. Instead, he was brought before a council made up of dragons and wolves alike. For the first time in history, justice belonged to neither kingdom alone. Varros confessed everything. The murder of Beta Ronin. The kidnapping of Mira. His alliance with the Order of the Fallen Flame. His manipulation of both kingdoms. Yet he also confessed something few had expected. I believed I was saving the world. There was no triumph in his voice. Only exhaustion. The Dragon Lord looked at the old dragon who had once been his closest advisor. You allowed fear to become your king. Varros closed his eyes. I know. He accepted his sentence without protest. He would spend the remainder of his life imprisoned within the monastery overlooking the Valley of Embers, where every day would be devoted to preserving the true history he had tried to rewrite. Not every punishment required death. Some required remembrance. The Order of the Fallen Flame crumbled after its leaders were captured. Some members fled into distant lands. Others surrendered. Many had joined believing they were protecting the world. Others had simply followed powerful voices without questioning them. The Dragon Lord decreed that those who willingly laid down their weapons would receive fair trials instead of immediate execution. Justice without mercy became revenge. Mercy without justice became weakness. A kingdom needed both. Silvercrest changed. Alpha Garrick stepped down after admitting that pride had blinded him for too long. The elders unanimously chose Ryan as the new Alpha. When they placed the ceremonial cloak upon his shoulders, Ryan hesitated. Months earlier, he would have accepted it with confidence. Now, he accepted it with humility. His first decree surprised everyone. No Omega will ever again be judged by rank before character. Ancient laws were rewritten. Pack members were given the right to challenge unjust traditions. Young wolves born into lower ranks were offered the same opportunities as every other member of the pack. Some resisted. Many celebrated. Change always demanded courage. Ryan never married. Not because he believed he deserved punishment, but because he understood that love could never be reclaimed through regret. He often visited Ronin's grave. He also visited the Ashlands once each year. Not to erase the past, but to remember the man he never wished to become again. Mira chose to remain in Draconis. Not as a prisoner. Not even as a guest. She became the first ambassador between the wolf packs and the dragon kingdom. Terran remained by her side. What began as reluctant trust slowly became friendship. Friendship eventually became something deeper. Neither rushed it. After everything they had survived, they understood that the strongest bonds were built patiently. Captain Raiden finally admitted his feelings for Elara after years of pretending duty mattered more than his own heart. Master Arinder retired from royal service. He spent his remaining years teaching children from both kingdoms together. Every lesson began with the same sentence. History is not meant to chain us. It is meant to guide us. Claire stood on the highest balcony of the palace, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in gold. She had once believed she was nothing. An unwanted Omega. A rejected mate. A burden. Now, she wore neither the crown every day nor the title others constantly offered her. She preferred walking among her people without ceremony. She knew the names of the children playing in the courtyards. She visited injured dragons personally. She listened to farmers as carefully as she listened to generals. Whenever anyone called her Your Majesty, she smiled and answered, Claire is enough. The Dragon Lord found her there, as he often did. You escaped another council meeting. She smiled without turning around. They talk too much. They do. He stood beside her. For a while, they simply watched the sunrise together. Comfortable silence had become one of their favorite conversations. Finally, Claire spoke. Do you remember the first day we met? I do. I thought you were terrifying. He laughed softly. I've been told that. I was convinced you would send me away. I almost did. She looked at him in surprise. You did? I believed keeping you close would place you in danger. And now? He turned toward her. Now I know letting you go would be my greatest mistake. A gentle breeze carried the scent of winter blossoms across the balcony. He reached into the pocket of his dark cloak. What is that? Claire asked. He opened his hand. Resting in his palm was a ring unlike any she had ever seen. It wasn't made of gold. It had been forged from silver dragon steel, its band entwined with a single crimson gemstone that shimmered like a living ember. My mother gave this to my father, he said quietly. He carried it until the day he died. He looked into Claire's silver eyes. I've carried it ever since. Then, to the astonishment of every guard fortunate enough to witness the moment, the most feared dragon lord in history lowered himself onto one knee. The same man who had faced armies without flinching, who had ruled for centuries without bowing to anyone, now looked up at the woman who had changed not only his kingdom, but his heart. Claire. His voice was steady, warm, certain. I cannot promise a life without hardship. I cannot promise there will never be another war. I cannot even promise that I will always have the right answers. He smiled gently. But I can promise this. I will stand beside you. Not before you. Not behind you. Beside you. For as long as this heart continues to beat. Tears shimmered in Claire's eyes. She thought of the frightened Omega she had once been. The girl who believed she wasn't worthy of being chosen. She was no longer that girl. She had discovered that real love never demanded she become less. It simply encouraged her to become herself. She laughed softly through her tears. I've kept the most feared dragon lord waiting long enough. His smile widened. So. She offered him her hand. Yes. The ring slipped perfectly onto her finger. The moment it did, the bond between them ignited. Not with blinding fire. Not with thunder. But with a warm light that spread gently across the balcony. Above them, dragons filled the sky. Across the valley, wolves lifted their heads toward the morning sun. Neither kingdom held. Neither kingdom roared. Instead, they stood together. As equals. As allies. As family. The dragon lord rose and rested his forehead against Claire's. My queen. She smiled. No. She gently touched his cheek. I'm your Luna. He laughed a deep, genuine laugh that echoed across the mountains. And somewhere beyond the clouds, beneath a sky finally free of war, the moon goddess smiled. Because the rejected Omega who had once walked alone into the Ashlands had found something greater than revenge. She had found a home. A purpose. And a love worthy of the fire she carried within her.